Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Sauko, and I would like to welcome you all to the highly awaited, highly anticipated season number 4 of Storm Competitive Series R6. Today, I am joined to kick off this season with the esteemed Blue Panda and Matt, some of our amazing casters that are going to be with us for this season. Welcome back, you guys. I know both of you all were staples there in the end of season 3 and even before that, so it's phenomenal to have you back. How are y'all feeling about today?
Oh, you can
Sorry,
talk
I thought
first.
you were gonna go, Matt. No, but yeah, I was giving you the chance. But yeah, Sauko, I'm super excited. I'm keen coming into season 4. There's some great names in the competition, and there's some returning names. There's some names that, if you were paying attention to the qualifiers, it got a bit tenuous there. I mean, Wichita Wolves having to play through the lower bracket was a bit rough, but they've made it. They're coming through, and they're going to be our opening game for the day, heading off against First Attempt. And I could not think of a better matchup to start off season 4.
Absolutely, and one of the main things that we want to keep in mind is that Wichita did win last season and the first season before that, so they are already 2 times champions, and they are a favorite to win in this one, but they have some roster changes that could prove to be a lot different. Meanwhile, First Attempt, they have most of their starting players, and that can prove to be very beneficial, especially when a team needs to perform. So I really like the matchup here, and it should be a good one to start us off, and I have no doubt that this will be a very close and competitive game.
100% agree with everything there, guys. It is going to be a barn burner for sure here. So a little bit about both of these teams. First Attempt, a little bit of a newer roster. They just sort of came together about a month or so ago, if I'm remembering correctly. So they are going to be fighting for a lot to prove here, but at the same time, they have some amazing talent, and they have the backup of none other than Stokes, who is the coach for this roster here. So First Attempt coming into this very strong. In their qualifiers, they went 6-3 in open qualifiers, propelling them into the top 6 of the open quals. And then finally for closed qualifiers, because of their performance, they only had to play 1 game to qualify, and they actually 2-0'd. So that is a phenomenal accomplishment for them in closed. And do you guys have any highlights about them, or what do you guys like to think, Matt? Blue?
I mean, one of the big things that I saw during qualifiers was that this team, they work really well together. Their ability to just push site as an attacker is really, really well thought out, and they're very methodical in the way that they approach certain sites, and that's something we don't see a lot from T3 teams. They like to work together more, and they don't focus on frags. I believe they were one of the teams that I saw them plant a lot more than others, so that's something to keep in mind. Now, Wichita, they are straight gunners. They go for that vertical control, and they use it to every advantage possible. And their roam game, probably some of the best that I've seen in this T3 league.
Yeah, I mean, coming into the lower bracket, it's never a situation where being given, that Wichita Wolves were Season 3 and 2 champions. There's a lot of pressure on them. They're coming to the lower bracket. They kept it calm. They kept it cool. They won it out and got themselves this chance to defend that title. And coming into it, they're this known quantity. They're very, very good. They picked up a couple of new players, so they're not the most well-established roster, but this is where they're going to look to prove themselves. Coming into the opening weeks of Season 4, we're going to start to see them shine, and we know for a fact that they play a very, very capable game. And so this is going to be their biggest test. First Attempt, they've got the backing of Stokes, who, I mean, heavily embedded in the high-tier competitive community, is going to have one of the best competitive brains behind a team. So I think, yeah, well and truly, Wichita Wolves are facing their biggest test today.
Right, guys, I would definitely agree with you there. I mean, First Attempt, like you're mentioning, very strong roster coming in. And Wichita Wolves, that's going to be the only thing that I think could potentially hold them back, is the fact that they are going through a bit of a roster rebuild here. They only have about 3 of their core players from that original SCS Season 2 and 3 roster. They're going through some trials right now, I do believe, to finally round out that roster, but at the moment they're relying on subs, and even as we noticed during the playoffs and the qualifiers from this season and of course the previous season, they actually played with their analyst Cranberry, and he did really well. He showed up for himself, and he was popping 10 kills in a couple different maps and things like that as well, so it's very impressive for sure. But we will see exactly what's going to come of that. So looking at a couple of the other teams that we have coming in this season, we've got the highly regarded roster of In Control Nation coming in. Obviously, Wichita Wolves, who is playing in this first matchup tonight. Emergence is another team that returns from season number 3, and they actually made it through close qualifiers in a very, very close match on Oregon that was exciting to watch. We've We've got Hostile Actions, a little bit of a newer team. I haven't heard too much about them, but I know they held themselves very well in both rounds of the qualifiers. That's fantastic to see. Synthetic, yet another team returning from Season 3. They used to be in actually the bottom 6 from Season 3, and then they came in and absolutely demolished the qualifiers. So it was impressive to see, which is fantastic. Lycus Empire, who is actually the old NSO Academy roster, they recently got picked up by Lycus, have such names as Defiance, Braction. They're picking up a couple more new players as well. All right. And as you know, it is our first week, so that's why we don't have any statistics to display, but we will see that coming up very soon. Visionary is another name that we might recognize from Season 3, but if you guys look a little bit closely on our website, scsesports.com, you can actually find out that this roster is a bit different. It is the old Canadian Visionary roster coming out to play here with a couple minor tweaks here and there, but they were very, very dominant team. They had to play through the open qualifiers because their roster changed so drastically from Season 3, but they showed themselves very well. Redux Rising is the, I believe, final team from Season 3 that carries over. They are very, very well this season so far. And actually Pride there too. Sorry, it kicked over a little bit soon, but we do have Pride, the old HC roster. And yet again, another phenomenal team. I have nothing bad to say about any of these teams. They all battled it out, duked it out in the open and close quals.
The open and close quals were absolutely phenomenal. Both teams played their heart out. All the teams that are here played their heart out, and they definitely deserve a spot here in this season. So I really can't wait for all of these matches, and we got one just shortly, and I'm hyped. I don't know about you, Sako.
Oh my lord, I am absolutely shaking right now. It might also be from the caffeine, but at the same time I am shaking with anticipation. So I am ready to go on that one. But let's take a look at our predictions here. Blue, you want to go over the predictions from this week and sort of talk about what you see here, your own personal predictions as well, if you might have any.
Yeah, I mean, coming into this is the most contested matchup to start things off. First attempt versus Wichita Wolves. There's some people on both sides of the fence. Majority going the way of first attempt, obviously because of some the resources they have available to them. That specifically Stokes as a coach is going to be feeding them a lot of great strategies and a lot of play and breaking things down. Visionary Lycus, it's a little bit more one-sided. In fact, it's very one-sided. Everyone's sort of pegging this Lycus roster. They're looking very, very good coming into it. They're looking real solid. If I remember correctly, I myself backed Wichita in the first matchup and Lycus in the second one. Two orgs that I know reasonably well coming into the North American Tier 3 scene. And Control Nation versus 303. I think Pond might be going to hedging his bets, trying to get that out there play, betting against the odds. But in Control Nation, they're coming into this trying to live up to their name. They're going to be in control of the series, and hopefully for them. Matt, obviously, you are very familiar with these teams as well. You should have a little bit more to say about the final three matchups.
Yeah, the final three matchups, Redux Rising and Synthetic. From what I saw in the open quals, both teams were very, very good in terms of how they played, but it could really go either way in that match. But I might have to give it to Redux just because they kind of have more experience in the SCS field as they were here last season. We have Pride and what's the other? Hostile Actions. Again, two teams that really did well in open quals and closed quals as a whole. I did like what Hostile Actions was doing though. They did seem to have their stuff a little bit more together than Pride, so I would go with them over that one. And then you have Renaissance and Emergence, and Emergence just looked really strong. Not saying Renaissance isn't there as well, but again, this is really early in the season. A lot of these guys the teams weren't all necessarily the same as we see now. So I really cannot wait to see exactly how all these matches play out between today, tomorrow, and the day after that. It should be really telling to see how well prepared these teams are to try and go for that $2,000 prize pool.
I 100% agree with you guys. This season is phenomenal. I think the competition here, even though there's a couple teams that might not be as well known as others out there in the T3 scene, if you made it through our qualifiers this season, the way that they were run, you deserve to be in the season. So the competition is going to be very tight, and I expect to see a lot of potential overtime play here. But let's take a look. Operator picks. These are from last season. We had 952 total rounds of gameplay in season number 3, including playoffs and regular season here. And this is the final statistics from those pick rates. So Zofia came in very high, followed up by Ash. Unsurprisingly, surprising there. You definitely see a lot of utility burn operators in this current attacking meta for sure. And then of course you have your hard breaching duo, and then Maverick is on the board as well, so almost trio. There was no Ace in last season, however. So how do you guys think Ace is going to potentially interact with this competitive meta for this season?
I mean, well, it's already been shown just how heavily he impacts it. Now that you've got so much more priority around hard breaching, the bans need to be that much more on point, especially given that we go into Clubhouse first. I mean, the number of rounds we've seen when at CCTV, the wall is opened in the first 30 seconds because those Selmas are so incredibly aggressive, and being able to do that, I think it's definitely changed things. Although on the defensive side of things, it's going to be just as much intrigue. But we'll touch on that once the picks come up. There we go on screen, and like I was going to say, Melusi has just shifted things on its head. Those Banshees slow down the attacker's push. You've got to either bring some sort of explosive to destroy them, or you've got to get up close, melee them to actually finish them off. And in that time, you're at risk of being swung on, getting taken down in a gunfight. So both shifts have been rather significant, and I reckon it's going to turn bans on its head.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you.
Oh,
Oops, sorry, Matt.
My lord. I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No,
but yeah, Melusi definitely is going to shake up the meta, and we've seen it in Pro League and Challenger League, both high competitive gameplay. We saw it even in open and closed quals where Melusi was almost a sure pick or a sure ban. So that's something to keep in mind, especially jumping into this season here, where you have Ace and Melusi on the board as well. Echo is still, I believe, in quarantine. So another thing to keep in mind, because Echo being permanently banned, he was an operator that a lot of defenses, a lot of teams relied on for defense to just try and deny plants. Now you have to rely on Maestro and those nitro cells and vertical play to try and stop the rest of that. So really interesting to see how this meta will be shaken up. And once Echo comes back, you'll see a giant shift, in my opinion. And also, we saw something with a rollout of a patch yesterday where Glaz is back to the old way he was. If any of you remember the Ying Smokes Glaz meta, it was absolutely horrendous in terms of just trying to stop it. I mean, people were just, say, coastline service entrance. You'd smoke it off, go for a plant, you'd Glaz covering through the smoke. Now you do have a Warden to try and counter that, but Glaz still has that range over him, and even with a 1.5, you cannot beat his 6x scope.
I think it might actually come down to a battle of fire rates there too. So I mean, Glaz obviously 11 bullets in a magazine. He has to sort of tap fire because he is limited to, you know, that one shot mentality, the single shot fire rate. So that could play out a little bit differently, but I think Glaz is definitely at a severe advantage right now. But we're looking at the map bans now. They have been completed. So we'll take a look, and I see something interesting, obviously. Wichita Wolves went for Clubhouse, and that is not surprising at all. They absolutely love Clubhouse. So as a team that is going against Wichita Wolves, you have to take that into account, but potentially First Attempt is very confident on that, as they did select to attack, which is not something you see every day in the current metas. You typically see defense first, and that is typically what you want to get, because obviously defense has been pretty high percentage for win rates on almost every map. I would argue maybe Coastline is the only one where it's a little bit even. You guys can argue with me on that or not, but that's just from what I'm seeing. But obviously with this season, we will actually see what we're going to have in SCS. We have a lot of statistics getting tracked. Ferme's been doing amazing with that, so we will get that data to you as the season plays out. But do you guys see anything interesting with these bans?
Well, I mean, obviously there's a lot of staples that, well, actually I say staples. Clubhouse, Cafe, sort of that's the tier 3 hallmark, I suppose, for Rainbow Six. Those are the two maps that everyone should know. But I mean, coming into the season, coming into the changes that have been made, there has somewhat been a bit more of a shift towards that attacking side. There have been some changes that have made it a little bit more attacker-sided. Obviously, it comes down to preference at the end of the day. There's two ways you can approach a map. You can go, oh, we'll start off on the defense, get, you know, the rounds that we need, and then sort of, you know, use the attacking side to get us over the line, finish it out. Or, you know, we're going to put ourselves in the attack, get as many rounds as we possibly can, and then riot out that defensive wave and just close the map out that way. So it could be that First Attempt is saying, you know what, we're confident in our attack, we'll take as many rounds as we can, and then go to our favored side and then clutch it out that way. So I'm interested to see, one, obviously operator bans are going to be hugely impactful in how that plays out, and two, how they look to approach things on the attack. Obviously, Wichita Wolves, it's a map that they are very, very confident at. So I think, yeah, this could be that map that kicks off the first overtime of the season. I'm not gonna jinx anything, but I mean, given that it's infinite overtime, this could be potentially quite a long map.
I would have to agree with you guys. I think it might go to overtime here, just knowing how good Wichita Wolves is with this map, and then first attempt just being such a powerful roster as well. So we'll take a peek there. All right. Well, we are just waiting on a couple people to get into the lobby here before we get kicked off on our first map. But if you guys had to take a guess right now, I'm going to pose this question for you all, and it's going to be, a really tough question, but who do you guys think is going to be in the running for that first place prize by the end of this season? I'm gonna say it right now. I know it's week 1, but let's check it out. Get some
It's too
opinion.
early. I can't
Okay.
even tell. I mean, teams are so different from what they were in open and closed quals. And as much as I want to say that they're similar, no, they're not necessarily similar. You see changes, you see players drop and go between Challenger League, coming back to T3. So it's way too early to tell. I'd say by week 2, I'd have a better idea, understanding all these teams and how they play. But right now, I couldn't give you an answer. Blue, I'm not sure about you. What do you think?
I mean, okay, so and this again, yes, it's very, very early. It's super hard to tell, but I mean, I'm going off my gut. Emergence, they're a team that I know reasonably well. I've been casting them for a little bit. In fact, they were one of my first North American casts earlier this year. And specifically, the thing that I'm looking at is, those teams that can go into a half at a significant deficit and still claw it back. That's what they faced in the qualifiers. They were down, I believe it was like 4-2, 5-1-ish at the half in Oregon. Any other team would have said, look, we're in a rough spot, we'll just play round by round. No, these guys knew they were going to come back. Every round, we got to win these gunfights. We got to take every single advantage. They clawed it back, solidified themselves a position in Season 4. So I have to say, my on my heart on sleeve, I'm going to be back in Emergence a little bit here. I reckon they could go the full distance. They've got the mental fortitude, they've got the stamina, and they could go the full distance.
Yeah, definitely, guys. I appreciate the input for sure. I would definitely agree with Matt in the saying that it is very early and it's going to be hard to tell. But Blue, I mean, your assessment's very, very strong, I would say. Emergence is one of those teams that you have to look out for. They came into Season 3 originally as a team that was basically just I hesitate to say this because, it's a whole different mentality, but they were basically a rank stack. I mean, we can call them that. They were just a group of people that were getting together, and they were not even really running strategies. They were just sort of going in, gunning, and picking up rounds and calling things on the fly. And then here they are. They've developed into one of the top T3 competitors. They made it into such a strong season. They play in a lot of things, and they are able to contend with top teams. I mean, look at the semifinals from Season 3. They took rounds and they took a map against Wichita Wolves, and they drew it out into a really, really potentially winnable situation. They almost progressed to the finals. So we'll see if that's going to continue for this season, but I definitely have high hopes for them as well. But all of our teams, I'm very proud to call all of them SCS Season 4 participants. That is for sure here. So
yeah, I mean, obviously, like I said, it is early days. It's going to be impossible to tell who's going to be that front runner until we get, sort of 2-3 weeks deep, and then the obvious, top place teams start to establish themselves, close that gap, and then you can start to draw those equivalents. But I mean, just seeing what we saw in the qualifiers, the fact that they came back from such a significant deficit, the fact that they carried on fighting until the last round speaks volumes to me. And it's those teams that separate themselves from the good teams, because they can say, look, regardless of the situation we find ourselves in, regardless of how the last few rounds have went, we know we can come back. We just need to dig a little bit deeper. We need to play our game, and from there we can take this out. So I mean, any other teams that pull that out, I'll be backing them. I'm always a fan of the underdog. I mean, I come from a little island in the middle of the Pacific. We are the underdogs ourselves in a lot of sporting events, so I'm looking forward to seeing who those teams are. It's a terrifying prospect at the end of the day, coming up against that first place team, and there are some big names in the competition, and taking wins away from those teams is going to be huge going into the later stages.
oh yeah, that would be a huge boost to the morale of first attempt if they could walk away with even just one map. That is something that no team was able to do in the regular season of Season 3. No other team was able to take a map. Like, sure, they were able to tie, but not an actual win. So if first attempt can even walk away with just Kafe, like let's say Wichita Wolves, they're really strong on Clubhouse, they take Clubhouse, sure. First attempt, they come in and they take Kafe, boom. Like that's a huge morale boost. So we'll see what's going to happen with that. We're still waiting on one player. He was having internet issues, so we're getting him in at the moment. But I'll pose another question here, and I'll let Matt sort of take the answer on this one first, and then Blue, you can sort of toss in your 2 cents at the end. But who is your player to look out for this season? I know that you guys are pretty familiar with a lot of these teams on here, so if you had to pick one person that you are keeping your eye on right now as a caster, as a potential desk analyst.
That's a tough one. That is a real tough one. Shoot.
I know I'm limiting you. I said one, but hey, we'll
Yeah,
try.
you're saying one. I would just honestly, I can't even pick a team. I couldn't even just narrow it down to a team. They're all skilled players. At the end of the day, they've made it here for a reason. But one person I think that we need to watch, I'm gonna just narrow it down to just a category. I think we're gonna need to focus on support players. Just in general, because they have such an important role when it comes down to just executing on site. They are going to be the ones to plant the bomb, get the intel that their teammates need, the fraggers, to kind of do their thing, which is move onto site, get those frags. So I think you're going to need to watch for that. Although their KD might not be the best, their costs might not be the best, one thing to keep in mind is that their win rate and how well their team performs is going to go up. And again, I can't tell by just looking at names and being like, okay, well, this person's good, this person's good, this person. No, you can't do that. It's early in the season, and there's just not enough statistics out there. And although I have seen these guys in other leagues, it does depend on the rest of their players. So it's really just going to come down to how well they execute and play as a team.
Definitely.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly there with Matt. But I mean, there's a couple of these players coming into this competition. And I hate to be jumping back on the same wagon that I was on a moment ago. Emergence. Goria for Team Emergence is a player that every time I see him on screen, he's doing something absolutely insane. Like whether it's popping off, going 3-4 kills in a round, whether, I've seen him like 5 or 6 times now in a 1vx situation, and he hasn't always won it out, but he's done some significant damage going to those. So, I mean, he's going to be my player to watch. And again, I know I'm beating a dead horse. I've been harping on about how Emergence could be that unknown factor, but for some reason, Goria is just this player who has that, I don't know what it is, he does some weird and wonderful stuff, and for some reason it works.
Definitely. Yeah, that's something that we saw all throughout Season 3. I mean, Goria was pretty much on top of the statistics for such a long time there. So if I had to pick out, I know I limited you guys to one, and I'm gonna pull a little Desk Coast bamboozle here, and I'm gonna give 3.
Okay, you're gonna do 3.
Well, actually
okay,
2, and then one honorable mention. But the first one, I will say Goria. I will second that. Another one would be Faded, especially after the finals and the playoffs performance. Faded, oh my lord, he was just doing beautiful work there for Wichita Wolves, so I'm looking to see him continue that. And then a good honorable mention for me, and this sort of lines up with Matt's idea of support players, is actually going to be, if you can classify him as such, Croissant from the old Zenith, now Oddballs roster. I know that they're not competing in this season, that's why I called him an honorable mention, but he's a perfect example of what a support player should be, right? He's saving his life, right? He's deploying his utility. You see him a lot on Gridlock. He's putting down his flank watch. He's watching drones. He's helping his team. And if it comes down to it, if he's put in like a 2vx situation or a 1vx situation, he is a clutch master. He comes in and he gets kills out of nowhere, and he pulls wins out of the ether, and secured his team a lot of rounds in the last season, and he was definitely a big part of their playoff as well. So I would say that supports, if you play it like Croissant, I'm going to give him a big up right now. If you can play it like Croissant, you keep yourself alive, you use your utility the way it's supposed to be, you drone your teammates in, and then afterwards you go gun up and you absolutely shred people. That's exactly what you need to be doing as a support player.
Yeah, so it's this unsung role. I mean, you get those players who will be sitting in Twitch chat watching Pro League or something, and the entry fraggers for X Team are going off. The only reason they can achieve what they're achieving is because they've got that support player backing them up, giving them translating that information for them and droning, providing the flank watch, because you cannot run in and frag like some of these fraggers are without that security of the flank watch, because all of a sudden the pinch comes in from behind, and yes, they might get one frag, but then they're traded out immediately. So those support roles, the unsung heroes of a lot of these teams,
definitely
they usually sit on that breaching role as well, so they are 100% enabling these hard fraggers for a lot of these teams. So definitely, they're the ones to watch.
Alrighty, guys, and we do apologize for the delay. We did have a player that is getting a critical error for the game right now, so we're getting a substitute in that was listed on the roster for one of these teams here, so we'll have them in just a moment. But while we're doing that, you guys get to see us for a little bit longer. It's pretty nice. I know you're going to hear a lot of Blue Panda and Matt, and you're going to hear some from me here today too, but I don't know what to say, man. It's just going to be an amazing season. It's been a whole week of anticipation, right? We have been planning.
A
We've
week?
been
It's been
building
longer
things.
than that.
Is it?
feels long.
I
It
know,
feels like it's been like
as
2
soon
weeks.
as season
Oh
3
wow. Okay,
ended.
true.
Ferme was right in it. He was prepping stuff coming into this. And speaking of prep, speaking of looking at something amazing, that lovely shirt you got on, Salko.
Oh yeah.
That's pretty clean. SCS merch is available. Make sure you check that out. We also have a discount code, if I believe.
We
I'm
do.
right.
The discount code is StormComp, all one word, STORMCOMP, and it'll get you 10% off on the store. So if you scroll down in your little beautiful Twitch player there, you can see a link there. So definitely check that out. You can get some of this merch as well. And if you can't get the jersey, we have stickers, and stickers are awesome. You can slap them on like your microphone, your desk, your computer case, whatever floats your boat. There's a whole lot of stuff on that. And while you brought that up too, since we're here and we have a little bit of extra time, I'll sort of give you guys a little bit of a teaser trailer here. Obviously, you guys as casters sort of know what's coming, but HyperX, if you were watching our Twitter earlier, we posted that they are a actual sponsor now. So besides just being sort of affiliated and partnering with them, they are an actual sponsor. I'm not going to go into too much detail about exactly what's coming, but it's going to be very exciting. It's going to elevate SCS production even more, and it's going to give you guys a lot of opportunity for interaction and potential cool stuff. So take that as you will, but oh man, we might actually be getting ready, and we might actually have a super special guest sub. I just heard, because I am in the production chat
sub.
right now, so I get to hear
so it's a
some of the inside
surprise.
info. So he is listed on the roster, but I'm not gonna go into who it is just yet. I'm gonna let them sort of wait
You'll just
until
see.
the game
We'll
starts.
just wait and see.
You'll all see. The chat will blow up. I guarantee you right now.
Yeah, I mean, well, we have some indication of who it might be behind the scenes, but hey, look,
Right.
we'll let them speak for themselves. You guys know and love him, so I mean, I'm sure you guys are going to be just as excited as once we get into it. But yeah, big things coming the way of SCS. I know a couple of other things that there are in the works. I've heard some whispers. I mean, coming into this, we've got a hell of a first week coming up. We've got games tomorrow and the day after as well. I know I'm going to spend plenty of the time on the casting desk, so you guys get to see plenty of me. Salko going to be hitting the desk host position. I mean, okay, so coming into this, we're going to Clubhouse Cafe first. How many rounds? How many rounds are you guys predicting? Because infinite overtime, this could be a very, very long series.
Matt, I'll let you take that one first. What's your prediction? How long are we going each map?
Do we actually have infinite overtime, or was that only for the closed quals? Do we?
No, we have infinite overtime for the
season.
season.
We have infinite overtime.
It's going to be best of two, so that's the big
Wow.
adaptation.
Oh,
so I'll take a
boy.
bit of an aside. It is not quite like the best of three system that we see in a lot of other leagues right now. It is set up that where we only have two maps. You will play both maps no matter the outcome of the first one. And both ones you can go to infinite overtime. And overtime actually has a little bit of a different point system, where if you win in overtime, you only get 2 points as opposed to 3 for regular time. And if you lose in overtime, you gain that extra point. So you get 1 point for losing in overtime since you pushed it that far. Obviously, you deserve a little something. So, but yeah, Matt, what are you thinking knowing that information?
Well, I don't necessarily think it's going to go to infinite overtime, but I think it'll be a 7-5 score. You're going to see a lot of rounds utilized, and it's going to come down to a lot of last-second rounds. That 20-second meta is going to be so prevalent, I think, in my opinion, especially on a map like Clubhouse first. I don't know. I'm thinking 7-5, but I honestly couldn't tell you who's going to win because they're both really good teams.
I'm on the same boat there. Blue, you brought up the question, man. What do you think in round one?
Honestly, Clubhouse, I think is gonna be the map to do it. I reckon, with most other competitions, you're looking maximum of 15 rounds. I reckon we're gonna surpass that going into Clubhouse. Well, I reckon we could potentially get quite high up there. Both these teams know the map; they know it incredibly well, and there's a lot of tools available to them to understand. I mean, the Clubhouse is a map where basically every conceivable strategy has been fleshed out. Everyone knows sort of the limitations of this map. So we're not going to see anything new, anything, bizarre and out there. So I reckon that is going to be the map to do it. Cafe could be a little bit different, but we've had confirmation. Players are ready. We are going to be getting into map 1, series 1 of season 4. It's been great talking to you, Salko, but I think we're throwing it right over. And Matt, we're getting into it. First attempt versus Wichita
chair real
Wolves.
quick. It's time to
Operator
work.
Band's coming in here for Clubhouse. Who are we seeing taken away?
All right, well, definitely you're going to see Thatcher eliminated or a Maverick because a lot of teams rely on that Maverick and Thatcher, especially when you're trying to get that CCTV wall open. And on a map like Clubhouse, it's just really, really impactful to get them off the board. Yep. So there's your Thatcher, your standard typical ban here for Clubhouse. Who do you think is going to be the second attacker band? I think it's going to personally be a Maverick, but maybe you could think of something else.
Well, I mean, there's sort of two trains of thought. Either, you want that Rounded which isn't heavily prevalent in Clubhouse, so it's probably going to be Maverick or Ace would be my guess, just because of how impactful Ace is. He's got that AK-12. It's a hell of a gun. In fact, it is going to be Maverick at the end of the day, so we are going to have to see some reliance on probably Zofia, potentially some frag grenade play, and a lot of IQ prevalence here. So it's going to be interesting. Although coming into the defense, I would imagine probably a Mira and potentially a Malusi, but there's any number of options, really.
I would not be surprised by a Malusi ban, but I would really expect a Cade ban here. But it's going to be a Mira, one of those operators you don't want to deal with, especially on a map like Clubhouse, where she is powerful if you know how to use her. There are teams that are really skilled with her, and then there are some that just aren't as comfortable, so Mira is going to be eliminated. Now, I would expect to see a Cade or a Malusi here. Most likely a Cade, considering Thatcher and Maverick are off the board, but anything will really be up in the air at this point. Oh,
it's going to be OMI. So it is an operator that has seen a rise in priority in the ban phase just because of that utility slick meta, how much he enables that. But going into this, Malusi is going to be available, Cade's going to be available. Those hatches are going to be such a huge priority for these teams now. This could be an interesting one. Now, unfortunately, JWL from Wichita, from First Attempt has unfortunately had some issues. So we are just going to have to throw it to a quick rehost to Salco.
Oh, we're back.
We might be welcoming him back. So we're just waiting on confirmation as to whether that special sub will be coming in or not, because JWL was the player having issues. Matt, so given what we've seen, Maverick, Thatcher taken off the board. You're going to have to go for some, some unconventional attacks. You're going to have to rely on the Zofia frag grenades to try and enable that hard breach, destroying out bandit batteries and the likes of that. But Cade has been left available as well. Basement defense is going to be infuriating.
Oh, 100%. You have a K to deal with. You have a Malusi still on the board, Legion, Ella. You're going to have to deal with a lot of traps trying to push down to basement, and that's not going to be your best bet, considering how well these attackers will try and establish as much vertical pressure as possible. There are just a multitude of options that teams can take here, knowing that the bans of Cade are still on the board, and you have a Pulse of Valkyrie still there as well. So it is going to be very, very nightmarish for these attackers to try and push down to basement, CCTV. But I have no doubt that these teams are skilled enough and they will be able to overcome those odds and ultimately make the best decisions with the operators and the momentum that they need in order to move forward.
Yeah, I mean, we know just how much Wichita Wolves like their vertical play. Cranberry obviously played for them in the qualifiers, did an incredible job on that buck, so they'll obviously be passing that role over to someone else who is filling in that position. And so it's going to be interesting to see, how they position their attacks, what we're going to see on the defense. There's any number of possibilities that sort of change that outcome. But I mean, in terms of going into Clubhouse, there has been sort of a dynamic shift in terms of primary bomb sites, and that usually you see teams go CCTV down to basement and then probably gym. But there has been that shift where it's a 50-50 as to whether they'll go downstairs or upstairs to CCTV. What are you predicting?
I'm expecting to see a basement hold first. Now, hear me out. Considering that a lot of people are expecting you to go CCTV, I think you could kind of throw them off with a basement, and maybe even a gym and bedroom side hold, just because you know that CCTV is one of those sites that a lot of teams just feel comfortable attacking and defending. Maybe try and throw it up in the mix. Just try something different. We've seen a lot of teams be successful in gym and bedroom, and I have seen a couple in bar and stock as well. So there are those options on the table. Now, a lot of teams aren't as comfortable with those options, so they will go for those default sites. In my opinion, I think it's going to be a basement hold first, but anything can go at this point.
Yeah, we're just waiting on confirmation as to what's happening. You see Salco on the screen, but he's currently enthralled.
I am here, actually.
Okay, you are here,
yes,
good.
I am. I was just muted because you guys were talking. I didn't want to step on you guys. So basically what's happening is Jewel, who is a first attempt player, disconnected. He was the one that was having the computer issues. We all saw that on the stream just a minute ago. That just happened. So we are rehosting, and since the map had not started yet, they are allowed to get their sub in. So you'll see who that is in a moment. Once everything gets back fully underway here. Now we're just waiting for like one person to join the lobby yet again. But as soon as humanly possible, we are starting this game. We apologize for the delays. So.
Yeah, we're going to have a specific blue-eyed boy coming in to join the first attempt roster and back them up. And I mean, that could change things. Who knows? This specific player has a fairly solid head on his shoulders, so could definitely impact on how these rounds play. And yeah, I'm right there with you, Matt. I am predicting potentially a basement start. But speaking of starts, we are sending it right to the game now. The players are in
right,
already. Thank you, Salgo, for joining us.
Yeah, there we go.
But we'll let you go for a bit as Matt and I will take the reins. Round number 1, Clubhouse first attempt versus Wichita Wolves, the opening match of the series. And there you go on your screens. If you are looking closely, you will see just who is in the server for first attempts. Stokes, the coach for the team, is going to be playing and picking up that Sophia role as we head to CCTV first.
Yes, Stokes, you heard it here first, guys. The Pro League caster is going to be in this game and playing for first attempt. So we are going to see the poll in just a second here and see exactly who is favored to win. But standard setup here, you have the Sledge, Thermite, Abana, Capitail, and Zoth for the attacking side, and Mute, Jaeger, Maestro, Cade, and Malusi for the defensive side, as they are going to go for CCTV and Cash Room hold first, and not opt for that basement that I was talking about earlier.
Yeah, it's an interesting setup. They've got a lot of priority around entry denial. They've got not only the electro claws, but the mute jammers as well. So it's gonna feel this dual purpose of one, you can't directly push in because you've got to deal with that breach denial first. 2, the drones aren't going to be able to get in quite as securedly, I suppose, and give that information. So this is where things start to get a bit interesting. You've got to think outside the box. First attempt, we're going to have to go for some other approaches here. Also, you notice, given that patch that happened the other day, Malusi will be running the MP5. That was another change that was made. But this operating defensive lineup, I'm interested to see who's going to be given the role of holding rafters. I would imagine it's going to be Devil playing on that Maestro. That Older holds down that position so well, especially when given the Jaegers in support. They're going for Electro Claw from below onto CCTV wall. That's an ambitious play because if someone pushes in secret stairs, they might be able to spot it out, shoot it out, and they're going to get that wall for free.
You still have IQ on the board and a buck, so you can easily take out that Electro Claw. But I think what they're going for here is maybe trying to hold downstairs and stock. It's a very, very daunting task, but it could absolutely be a factor, especially considering the way that Wichita is setting up for this defense. Looks like it's going to be a standard execute onto CCTV wall for first attempt as they look to make their first attempt on attack.
Yeah, it's going to be a bold
I'm
strategy.
sorry,
They've got
I didn't mean to do
3. Yeah, that was a call that was made, but we'll brush over it for now. I'll leave you for that one. But 3 steps of 3 levels, I suppose, of hard breach coming out here. You've got the Thermite, you've got the Hibana, and then you've got the secondary hard breach gadget on bait. So they have a lot of options to get this open. But already aggressively, Casper pushing up to suicide is going to chuck his drone and try and get that information onto Con. They could look to start that push from that western side and clean over that way because there isn't really any presence. Because, you know, look at that. Wholesale and Relapse are downstairs contesting over towards Garage Storage and Garage True. And drone goes in, so they know the Jaeger is there. Bait might look for a frag if he can find it. And look who's coming in from behind. Wholesale wins the gunfight, but it's Stokes pushing in from below, going for a cheeky roam down blue. Might be able to catch out that Jaeger, get the refrag, and I don't think they have any idea that he's here. Unfortunately, though, for first attempt, they lose another player. PK going down. That Thermite, so key in this attack. That's going to be rough, putting themselves at a 2-man disadvantage. Stokes, there he goes. He's found a refrag onto Relapse. Matt, this is already gearing up to be a hectic match.
I mean, it's already a 4v3 favoring Wichita, but first attempt is starting to strike back here in this situation. You see Bloom, he's going to be inside of construction as Casper is going to rotate towards the main wall here, maybe try and regroup with Stokes here, and the bottom by Secret. Just over a minute left to play, and Devil's going to find himself worse for wear with Maestro's Alda on the top of the riser. Looks like Stokes will continue to push below and try and get this vertical pressure established with Zofia. Lifelines will go out and hopefully connect with one of the members up in Cash. You see him trying to spray through the floor here, not netting himself anything or any damage. Still getting as much vertical pressure as possible, is going to flush the defenders of Wichita into the crossfires that first attempt have established. But so far, they haven't gotten much to their name besides control of construction. Stokes will look to rotate outside of ladder. You have Bloom, he's going to be inside of construction. Flashbang's going to go out from Casper's, as now we see 20 seconds on the clock. Malusi's are a factor here, though, and they will slow down this push. More flashbangs continue to go out, and in the direction of the construction wall. It's going to be the Sledge peeking out first, but Devil's going to find him. Faded will fall, though, on Casper with the refract. Casper's going to be lit up by the Maestro's Alda, but Stokes will find his second onto Devil. Plants coming down from Casper, but here's Tyrant with the Nitro Cell, and there is Wholesale to wrap it up onto Stokes. Wichita will take round number 1 here. Almost a good attempt by first.
Well, it was just a series of misplays that put first attempt on the back foot. I mean, you lose bait to start things off, which wasn't the biggest loss, but it was an unnecessary gunfight that they didn't really need to take. Then they lose PK, which is their primary hard breach, and they have to go through those fatal funnels. You know, they got control of construction, but by that stage, you know, Wichita Wolves were well and truly prepped for them. They were waiting. Devil had the cross angle. You had player on top red. You had a couple of players in cash and CCTV waiting for that push. And that's exactly how it played out. Devil watched the cross angle, got the first one onto Bloom, did some decent damage onto Casper. Nitro Cell followed up, and it all just came apart from first attempt. And for a first attempt, that was a rough one, I'll be perfectly honest. Especially now, given that we're going down to basement and going to be holding Church Arsenal. That's another bomb site that can be incredibly tough to get control of as an attacker. And at the moment, given how the play has been going, Wichita Wolves, they're looking solid. They're coming into this. They're well and truly prepped. First attempt, it feels like maybe they aren't quite as warmed up as they need to be coming into this. And yes, sometimes it does take a couple of rounds for that to happen, get themselves into that competitive mindset. But that one, it felt a bit disjointed.
You see Devil is going to be setting up his Maestro cams on top of the jukebox inside of basement. That's an interesting Maestro cam and a pretty common one because it gives you a lot of line of sight inside of Moto, and it's at an elevated position, so it's not as easy to take out. Now notice they are not bringing a Malusi this time, considering that it was a pretty big factor, though. It kind of stopped them and stalled them from pushing in through construction. Looks like they're going to have the standard rotate through generator here, as Wholesale will look to play behind it, maybe looking to contest Oil Pit.
Yeah, it's a pretty traditional spot for Jaeger. You hold down in blue behind the generator, make it that much harder to get control from that part of the map. But at the moment, yeah, it's exactly as you'd expected. Tyrant with the Electro Claw is going to try and lock down Dirt Tunnel as much as possible. It means that first attempt have to go through into the bomb site. More conventional means to bring the same roster on the attack, so they have the potential to do this. It's just how they execute. Someone needs to get control of bottom main, try and enable that a breach to happen in kitchen, get the hatches open, and then from there look to the execute. But I have to say, at Wichita Wolves, that last round was rather convincing. They're going to be fighting tooth and nail to stop it from happening. They've also got all the players downstairs ready and waiting for that. They're also looking for that impact trick. First one comes out. It is going to be successful, but now they need to find some way into the bomb site. They do have the tools to do it, but unfortunately, look who's waiting for them. It's going to be Devil again.
Devil has this impact trick down to a T. Casper's going to have a hard time trying to push in here, as you see Stokes going to be rotating through stockroom, trying to go for this back flank here. Maybe try and clear out the roamers upstairs. Pre-fires are going to come out and not net himself anything, so relegated to droning in this instance to try and get any information for his teammates. Looks like Wholesale will still continue to hold down generators. Bait is inside of stock. He will actually use a hard breaching charge, and this is something that was recently added and not a lot of teams have utilized to get open that hatch. Capiteo is one of a few operators that have it on the attacking side, and it can be very crucial. Looks like Hibana pellets are going to go out in kitchen, hatch, and open. Starting off the killing will be Wholesale, though, as Stokes will be killed first, and he will take a little bit of damage in return. 1 minute and 10 seconds left as we hit a 5v4 favoring Wichita.
Now they're using that utility starting to dump out so they can get that push underway with 1 minute left on the clock. This is where things start to become do or die. That push has to happen. They're trying to get that player flushed out from blue, who will be Wholesale again. Didn't go down in the gunfight, so is in potentially a position to go for some more frags. Casper watching the hatch in kitchen. Oh, I think he may have just seen the top of the head, but didn't quite realize it here. Time is ticking away. They need to force something, and Casper knows there's someone there, but is being contested. Shots coming out, trying to find the pixel angle. Does set, but it is just a touch too late as the rotate off does happen. Pressure down on bottom main. Tyrant with another clean Nitro Cell onto Bloom. This is going horribly wrong for Wichita. 2 rounds in a row. They've lost 2 in the opener. Now they have to force something. Faded's going to be waiting for bait in the close angle. Unfortunately for him, he's not going to be able to win it against that massive M249. Another kill under relapse as he rotated into blue. And this big machine gun could be the thing that turns the scales here in favor of first attempt. Unfortunately, it's that fatal funnel once again. Wholesale and Tyrant. And Tyrant again to close things out. Wichita Wolves again taking the round dominantly, forcing first attempt into these choke points that they cannot contest.
And that partly comes down to just execution by the attackers because they were not able to open kitchen hatch in a timely manner. Even though they got control of stock, that push inside of blue stalled out because of the Jaeger of Wholesale playing behind that generator blue position. It's so difficult to get rid of somebody in there unless you push through dirt, try and cut off his rotates, and nobody tried to push from dirt for first attempt, and you saw that being a huge factor. Now we're going to go to Jim and Betterman. This could be a chance for first attempt to turn things around. Wichita are good at defending Jim and Betterman. We've seen it in the past, and Clubhouse is kind of their playhouse if you kind of look at what they did last season. However, we're going to see Valk 6 to a Maestro here, not opting for that Nitro cell play from below, rather than just go for that denial with the bulletproof cameras.
Yeah, at the moment. Now, there you go. Did you know on the screen, Faded he's just been a standout player in grand finals as well. It was the top of the scoreboard. Absolutely fantastic player overall. Is definitely one to watch throughout this competition. Has yet to find a kill, but at the moment, it's not going to stop him. We're only going into round number 3, so there's plenty of opportunities for him to find more. Getting set up for this gym bed defense, though, they've got, again, the tools they need to stop this from happening. Tyrant already 4-0. Wholesale has contributed to 6 kills overall, 4-2-0. These two players are just working in tandem to shut down every facet of the first attempt attack. Wholesale has consistently now 2 rounds in a row caught that player going out on a bit of a flank, trying to get that clean up on the roam players. He's been able to win that gunfights twice now. First onto first onto Bait, I believe it was, and then onto Stokes. Now, I mean, just they don't really seem to have a grasp on the positioning here of Wichita Wolves. Maybe it's the drone work not being able to, provide information because of mute jammers for any number of reasons, but also Tyrant as well. He's found 2 nitro cells already, some clean gunplay as well off the back of it. First attempt, they're definitely struggling coming into this.
I mean, that is to be expected on a map like Clubhouse, which does favor a lot on the defensive side. Now, if we look at the push and the execute they're going for here, it will be on Jim Wall. But there's some impact tricks and grenades being rung out here. Still have the Cade charge to kind of deal with, and I think they're in a spot where they are difficult to get with a grenade. And I think that will be a little bit of an issue, so without a Maverick or a Thatcher, they will have to try and maneuver their way around that. Yana is going to fall back. And this is the first Yana pick that we've seen in a while where she is being utilized effectively. Bait trying to really bait his teammates with that hologram, or Prisma as you call it. With under a minute 40 left to play, they have to start clearing this roam out. And if they don't, it's going to hurt them in the long run. Without getting that wall open, it could also prove to be fatal. But they are going to get that wall open with a minute 30 left to play, which is not necessarily the worst, but you have to start fragging. It looks like that's exactly what's going to happen. Relapse is going to fall to Bloom, and Bloom will get killed by Devil. Tyrant will also fall, as Stokes will pick up another kill. And now, all of a sudden, Wichita are finding themselves at the other end of the stick, per se, as they find themselves down in the advantage here. Fate is going to be holding with the SMG-11. Stun Grenade's going to come close. The ADS will intercept it. PK is going to pick off Devil, though, and is going to leave Faded and Wholesale in the 2v4. We've seen them clutch out in these situations before, but will they be able to do it again? Knows that the bathroom wall is soft, and here come the SMG-11, and here is the contest from first attempt. They are pushing right on in. Bait has the hologram, but he will not be able to find a kill on the Faded. Faded will be able to take out Bait, but Casper refrags on the Faded, and Wholesale Milk will be cleaned up by Stokes for a second on the round. First attempt, get their much needed round 1 win. Round 3 win here. Inching closer, 1-2.
Yeah, that's exactly what we expected coming out of the attack from first attempt. We know these guys are very, very capable. That attack was far more coordinated coming out of them. Now, we're going to be heading back to CCTV as, it's been a couple of rounds. They can reset that bomb site. the way it went last time, Bait got picked off early. They lost a lot of momentum, and then Stokes, he went for the hunt. Yes, he got the refrag, but just positionally, they weren't playing off of each other. Stokes went down into stock room, then tried to contest under cash. Those impacts could have been hugely enabling in terms of getting that CCTV wall open, which really wasn't something that happened for them. So I think now that they've got that round under their belt, they're playing a little bit more cohesively. As you saw in that push in Gym Bedroom, they played off of each other very, very well. So now coming into this is going to be where things start to get very, very close. The contest really will start to happen. As first attempt, they're going now to try and get another round on the board, bring it back to even. And Bait, surprise, surprise, having picked up the Iana, was rather convincing in terms of how they got things played out. Yes, you maybe force things without using the Gemini replicator, but a great gun, frag grenades, great information gathering tool. That could be a huge thorn in the side of Wichita Wolves if they aren't on it early.
That was something to keep in mind, and the Yana play was really effective in terms of using her frag grenades, and I think that's the reason they're bringing her. She does offer a lot of intel, and that basically is the bottom line of her gadget. It basically just gives the attackers intel, but I did not see her be used in that way at all that last round, so that could be something to keep in mind as you move down in through the rest of this round and rest of the map per se. One thing you have to keep in mind from first attempt is that they don't necessarily have anybody to try and deny or get rid of any of those denials on the wall, such as a Bandit or a Kate. So you really have to rely on the frag grenades and maybe the Zofia to try and go below, but not necessarily anybody like a Buck or an IQ to get rid of Electro Claws. Considering they've brought a Kate each time, I think an IQ would be a very, very logical adaptation here, but that's not my job as a caster. Relapse is going to be holding an angle from just inside a garage door towards stock window. We see Bait trying to play vertical here as the site is CCTV, and Cash Wholesale is going to be all the way down, relegated to basement, and he could be on for a late flank. First kill is going to come out, and it'll be Tyrant taking out Stokes. That will be your Zofia off the board. A minute 50 left, and Wichita Wolves starting to come back with their momentum.
Yeah, it's a rather unfortunate frag to lose that out that early. He has been consistently picking up numbers here throughout this map. Wholesale going to come in from that flank from basement, read into what Stokes did in the opening round to start off, and look at this dual attempt going for the breaching in from Con into Cash at the moment. Both the X-Kairos and the X-Thermic used. Bait will take some big damage, pulls himself back. 5v4 with over half the round to play. First attempt still have the opportunity to do this. They're going to open up rotates, get themselves back outside, start that contest from multiple angles on the map. Suicide, you got Bait there waiting, looking for a cross angle into Cash at the moment. Might be able to catch a player pushing in from red stairs, but at the moment, no one is willing to show themselves. Wichita Wolves proving that they're very grounded coming into this. They are just playing it slow, playing it smart, not over-contesting when they don't need to, and that's definitely showing as to how competently they are coming into this. Devil at the moment, again, has that same fatal crossfire onto the Cash door where they funneled into and lost a couple of players last time. And he's full health at the moment, hasn't been tagged up like he was previously. He could do a lot of damage in position.
I would like to see Bait use his hologram to try and get a little bit of intel, maybe cause a distraction and make the Maestro make a decision to try and spray in. Wholesale's gonna be playing behind the reinforcement at the top of Cash stairs. Time is not on the side of first attempt, as they will have to be pushed into the fatal funnel. Bait will fall as the first kill during this. Devil will be victorious in that one. Tyrant will fall as well to Casper. Casper will be refragged by Faded. Bunch of bodies continue to fall as Faded will pick up 2, and that will be the Nitro Cell. Finishing it off will be Wholesale. Milk as Bloom will be killed. Round goes to Wichita, and they look really strong on this Cash and CCTV defense. Even when construction wall was opened up, they did not panic, and they basically held the attackers to have to funnel in at the last few seconds. They didn't have enough pressure to push in through the sides, and that's just something you got to keep in mind. Now, looking at the replay, you saw Devil. He just basically cleaned up and caused a lot of distractions here, and it just played out well for him.
Yeah, I mean, Devil, he held that cross angle. He's been holding it every time we've seen Cash so far. CCTV catch. He just sits on rafters, holds his position, knows his job. Not to mention the fact that Faded really chimed in that round and picked up some big frags. First with the SMG-11, stole away the kill onto Casper, away from Devil, unfortunately. But then throughout the Nitro cell, got the player who was immediately pushing into the breach to try and catch out Devil. So they are covering their bases in a lot of these situations. They're fragging off each other incredibly well. First attempt, we thought they were going to be this real force to be reckoned with coming to the competition and would give Wichita Wolves a run for their money. But this opening attacking round is looking a bit rough for them. Yes, they're finding some frags, but it really is Stokes leading the way for them, and you cannot be relying that heavily on one player to do every single job, you know, enable the flank watch, because they're really not prioritizing that too much. Find the frags, get themselves into the bomb site, and that one round they won was the most cohesive we've seen them so far. The other 3 rounds that we've seen them play, it's just been a bit all over the place.
I mean, that's something you've got to keep in mind, especially as we hit later into the game. You want to see teams a little bit more organized, and that's going to prove who is going to win the match ultimately. So already we're going back down inside a basement where Wichita was victorious the first time. The only site they've lost so far has been that gym and bedroom defense. That's not a terrible thing for first attempt, though. They can already make all of the possible plays and adaptations necessary in order to push out Wichita in this situation. But from what we've seen, Wichita has been really, really on their game. Able to get those refrags during the refrag windows, and also able to push into those hotly contested areas where the attackers are pushing from and get those crucial frags. Bloom's going to be opening up vertical angles here with the sledge inside of kitchen for first attempt, as it looks like he's going to try and hold an angle, maybe catch somebody off guard. Standing on top of those metal cabinets will prevent him from dying to the C4s, which are not as plentiful from Wichita, as they have a Mute, a Nitro, and a K Nitro, and a Goyo Nitro. First kill is going to be the Hibana, though. Casper gets a little bit too aggressive here, trying to get the hatch open, and that will be the Maestro finding that one. Just using the vertical angles against the attackers here as we hit the minute 50 mark. You've already lost one of your hard breachers. Luckily, you still have a thermite, and that will make things a little bit easier. But Bloom's going to try his chances with the nitro. I'm not a nitro, excuse me, the frag grenade, and get a little bit of damage off. And you're going to see PK attempt to push down main stairs. His bait still hasn't used his hologram that I've seen so far to get any kind of momentum going. Something I want to keep in mind is that Wichita is really relying heavily on the roam game. They've been anchoring and turtling on site, and it's really proven to be a little bit of a difficulty for first attempt. Not able to get that vertical pressure. A minute 15, it's a 5v4 favoring Wichita.
Yeah, I think it comes down to the fact that first attempt, they've well and truly acknowledged that there hasn't been a significant attempt to go for that roam clear out of first attempt. I mean, we saw on, I believe it was the last cache CCTV hold is Devil again chiming in with a second. That older just horrendously murdering first attempt members one after another. First Casper, and then PK. Luckily though, he gets, oh actually no, it's a trade, so he will end up with 3 in the round as Bloom does finally get him down, but at the cost of his own life. And all of a sudden it's a 4v2 situation. Wichita Wolves have the man advantage, and Relapse will just add to that. Tyrant finally going down the first round where he hasn't had a significant impact, but Faded is there. Refrags out onto Stokes, and Wichita Wolves now leading 4-1. But there's no need to roam if your opponents aren't going for that roam clear. Set yourself up for the turtle. We saw Devil was able to find 3 frags before he went down, contested the breaches in kitchen, found another frag pushing down main stairs, and then as he was being pressured, found another one anyway. This is just all coming up Wichita Wolves. They are playing their game here on Clubhouse, and I mean, if this is their defense, they're 4-1. They're staring down the barrel potentially of a 5-1. The unfortunate result being that it's Gym Bedroom, the next bomb site of choice, which is the one they lost. But first attempt, this is not what we expected coming out of them.
And I think that just comes down to the way they're executing onto site. It hasn't really been super clean. They lost their Hibana trying to push in through kitchen, and that's not really the kind of momentum that you want as an attacker moving forward. Now, I think they have everything in their power to get a nice push inside of gym and bedroom, and going into the split 2-4 isn't necessarily a bad decision. One thing I want to keep in mind, and you might see us in the next map, is a Maestro ban. Right now, Wichita is leaning so heavily on it. It could be something that first attempt looks at in the long run. However, on the other side for first attempt, it could be using the Maestro in the ways that Wichita is using them. So far, we've only seen Wichita defend, and they have been rather successful thus far on Clubhouse. This is their map after all, and they are very powerful on it. Also, when you see first attempt, they are doing, I want to say okay on attack, but considering all of the interesting angles that Wichita is establishing and challenging, it can prove to be a little bit of an issue. Looks like we're going to see an extended hold inside of CCTV and Cash, and that's not a terrible position to be in, because when you hold CCTV so well, you can definitely hold Jim and Bedroom if you put people inside of CCTV and Cash. So instead of going for the XQ on, I believe, Jacuzzi Wall, I think it'll just be a push from CCTV, or likewise, the opposite.
Yeah, they're definitely changing up their approach coming into this. There has been some, operator swaps given over to different people. Now they're looking to try and get themselves in. They just miss out that Newt Jammer, so they won't be able to get the wall at the moment. Trying to go for that very, very left-hand side panel. Is it close enough? Yes, it is, so they will just get it open here. So they have an avenue in towards the bomb site. They've gone for a different hold than we saw the last time they played this. They've extended all the way over into CCTV Cache. We didn't really see that the last time. The furthest they went was just into Cache, and I believe that was Devil playing that on the Goyo, if I remember correctly. But now, this is the best shot the first attempt have themselves to get in. They've got all 5 members still left alive. They pushed in. They've opened up the angles into bathroom as well. Frag grenade going to be going in deep. Unfortunately, doesn't catch out Tyrant, who is holding there with that MP5, waiting for the push to come. Now it's the question: where did first attempt look to pressure? Do they go in for a gym plant? Bait will be tagged up a little bit. You see a smiley face on the inside of the bathroom wall as well. So Tyrant obviously having a good time as PK loses his head. Now, unfortunately, they find themselves without a hard breacher and a man down. And if Tyrant gets away with that same thing again, first attempt are going to be sitting in dire straits. If they cannot force into the bomb site and look to pressure a plant, they could be going into the half down 5-1, Matt.
And it doesn't help when Bait will be killed by Devil as well. It'll now be a 5v3 as we just hit under a minute left, but so far Bloom is trying to strike back. He'll find Relapse. That'll be the Maestro off the board. Offering that late game utility will no longer be a factor. So it's outside of Jim and Jacuzzi Wall, but on the flank will be Wholesale Milk. He'll find Bloom, and that will be the Ash inside of Logistics now dead. We see Casper getting the quick peek over towards the location of one by Jim and the weight room equipment. Casper going to be rotating though, and Tyrant's going to be looking a little bit worse for wear as that Malusi. Time ticks under 30 seconds left to play, and it's a 2v4. First attempt really need to make something happen here, and I think part of the reason these guys are not doing so well is they have not been able to get any of the opening kills as much as Wichita. Quick peek coming out here from Stokes. He's going to spray with Sophia, but no, he will be ended by Tyrant. Wholesale Milk finishes off Casper, and Wichita, holy, they have been doing quite a number here on Clubhouse. They find themselves 5-1 at the split, and they're in a good position. They were able to win on Gym and Bedroom the second time, and they were able to win out on the other sites. They only lost one defensive round. I like their odds right now, and they have another map to go into, but now you see first attempt, and we could see a complete 5-1 from them on their defense as well. So it could just be a defender-sided Clubhouse, and that's not out of the equation considering how well both these teams are playing, but definitely you saw a lot of struggling from first attempt on that one.
Yeah, it was a really rough way to kick things off. Just Wholesale. In fact, the entirety of this Wichita Wolves roster stepped out throughout that half. They found some great fragging moments. They held that. The fact that Tyrant was allowed to get away with what he did holding Bathroom, he found the opener onto PK, the hard breacher going down. He then had an angle from Jim, which was completely uncontested. It just all came apart at the seams because, Wichita Wolves, they held their angles confidently and competently and made it so that it was impossible for first attempt to get in without actually just straight up forcing a gunfight. They had to go and contest. At the moment, it's surprising and kind of scary. We've just had confirmation that no one on first attempt at the moment has above 50% cost. So they really just haven't had as much of a showing as they needed to in the opening half here. It could be a turning of the tables, now going on to the preferred half on Clubhouse. This could be where they just go absolutely ballistic. Stokes on that mute, that impactful SAS operator that has really just been, one of the standout figures on a map like Clubhouse. That could be the play. If he goes big here, if he goes and finds some massive kills and locks down an angle, definitely could bring a couple of rounds back in the favor of first attempt. But this, you talk about going nuclear, going ballistic. This has to be the half that first attempt do it.
If they don't win this round, it's not going to look good for them. They'll have to win a lot more consecutively in order to win out here.
Yeah, and at the moment they're setting themselves up for the defense. Casper going to be the one holding on rafters. As Relapse is there looking for something, but unfortunately it's wholesale milk again for Wichita Wolves to open things up. Stokes going down. That's the mute again. Nitro Cell off the board. M590. That's rough.
Not necessarily the position you want to be in. Stokes will be eliminated. Now Wichita looking to execute onto site. They'll get CCTV wall open, and now Tyrant looks to rotate towards that breach as well. Wholesale Milk will find himself downstairs inside a stock, trying to get as much pressure as possible. Knows the rotates are opened up through the bottom of Garage, and Relapse will be looking to contest that top floor by Rafters and get as much of that control as possible. Not sure if he spots his head here, but Relapse still trying to get this inside of Garage control. Holding the passive angles, knows that there's one here. Has the ping, and now the intel. This Jaeger is pinned. He will have to be able to swing up and take out Relapse, and he will. Relapse will fall, but Casper is immediately refragged by Tyrant. Wholesale will find his second onto Bloom, and all of a sudden you see first attempt starting to falter, but not before Bait will pick off Wholesale Milk. It's up to PK and Bait in the 2v3 to hold off the rest of Wichita Wolves and their high-powered attacks. Stun grenades are coming through the breach, and the Maestro is going to ring out and find Devil. PK doing such a good job with the Alda on that spray through the wall. Knows there's one at the top of Garage. PK looking to try and capitalize here. Tyrant with a quick peek. Knows that there's one at the top of Cash Stairs. Will take out one. Will be PK. Will find two. Will find three. And that will be first attempt, winning their first defensive round.
And that was a huge step up there from PK, who, I mean, he's had a real struggle in that opening half. Now, given the Maestro, he stepped up huge. Gunfight after gunfight after gunfight. He just found the heads every single time and was one of the biggest solo contributors in that round. In a 2v4 situation, brings it back to a 2v2, and then they clutch it out anyway. PK just was unstoppable throughout that round.
PK definitely looked very strong in that Maestro, and so far, I think one operator that has just been so impactful for both of these teams has been the Maestro. I think it comes down to the 81 bullets in the magazine of the Alda, just able to ring out and win any gunfight as long as you can spray in the enemy's direction and you hit their head once they're dead. And I think that's the mentality that both of these teams are going off of with that Maestro pick. And this time, you're going to see PK again on the Maestro, and that could probably be one of the interesting situations. And quick little fact here, Wichita has a 100% win rate in CCTV and Church, and a 50% win rate in Bedroom, with their only loss being on round 3, and I think we touched on that earlier, but that is something to keep in mind.
Well, another fun fact that, you know, after last round was the first round where the opening kill didn't coincide with the team winning. The opening trade went the way of Wholesale, but first attempt was still able to clutch it out in the defense. So this could speak to just how powerful their defensive side is. PK just huge in the round, playing on that Maestro again. They've got a lot of tools they need to try and stop that push from coming out of Wichita Wolves. But we're heading into, you know, actual play now, and Casper could look to go big, holding that blue angle, or that blue position behind the generator as well. Stokes on the Bandit, another operator which could be hugely impactful, relying on that Nitro Cell from below. They've got double impact operators coming out for Bloom and PK, so they're going to be trying to deny that push through the hatches. No reliance on Cade though so far. So it's going to be interesting to see how they look to position themselves. Are we going to see that full bunker? And that seems to be the play, as Bloom is setting, oh sorry, not Bloom, Relapse is setting himself up to open up the floor and kitchen, try and enable that hatch to be opened up by Faded. We saw how it went for first attempt when they were the ones attacking onto this position. Devil held it down with the Maestro. Can Bloom put in the same effort here and try and shut down that hatch being opened?
Well, Relapse definitely has an interesting challenge ahead of him. Stock hatch will be opened up by the Thermite of Devil. He'll now rotate towards Moto, where the Moto hatch will be opened, and already you see 2 of the 3 main hatches open for Wichita Wolves. Something we did not see a lot of for first attempt, as they struggled to get kitchen hatch open, and I believe Moto hatch was not even in the equation. Wholesale's gonna drop all the way down inside of Moto. He's running down main hallway. Do the attackers or the defenders have any idea he's there? He's gonna spot 1, he'll spot 2, he'll find Stokes and Bait. A double kill for him as he's gonna sit behind box. Wholesale Milk got a tear. He'll find a triple onto PK. Looking for more on the Ash. He'll have to revive his teammate, though. Casper's gonna strike back onto Tyrant, finds his 4th on to Bloom. Can he find the 5th and the ace onto Casper? With such low HP, he's holding the angle. He will get swung, and Casper will find his 2nd in a 1v3 with under 10 HP left. It will be up to first attempt, and Casper on the Jaeger. A post-plant situation has been established, and now the swing from Devil, but Casper will be eliminated, and the Wichita Wolves will be able to capitalize off the back of a 4K from Wholesale Milk.
Wholesale just drops into Moto, rotates all the way through 90 hallway into Church, finds the opening finds a 3rd, and then goes off and finds his quad. Like, how do you let that happen? Just pushes in, finds the 1st, gets... I mean, the fact that he took out 2 of the most impactful operators in that round being the Smoke and the Bandit, as he unfortunately just found the angle they need to. Bait and Stokes just caught with their pants down in that situation. And match point now here on Clubhouse. We thought this was going to be incredibly close, Matt. It has been anything but here as Wichita Wolves, they're putting on a showcase how to play Clubhouse. Both sides have been convincing out of them so far. And first attempt, they're going to head back downstairs. They are in a situation now, no mistakes can be made. They cannot let Wholesale get away with what he just got away with a 2nd time around. And again, they're relying on the Bandit for Stokes rather than the K. That means those hatches are just going to be free real estate. We could see the same situation play out.
Yeah, you're not really seeing any of the operator changes here for first attempt. That could prove to be a little bit fatal. I actually believe they're bringing the Malusi this time, as Bloom will opt for that. That could prove to prevent that Ash from rushing, but necessarily an Ella or a Legion also does the same role, and they do bring a little bit of utility with the impact grenades and the deployable shields. That could definitely be one of the key factors you might want to look at if you are trying and struggling in those kinds of situations. But first attempt, gonna rely on that Malusi, the new operator, with impact grenades rather than nitro cells. Doesn't look like they're going to be trying to play vertical as much against Wichita, as they will hold, hopefully, the funnels that Wichita will give them. Basically, you let the Ash of, I believe, yeah, it was Wholesale, just walk down main stairs. You cannot let them do that, and you saw the result. It was absolutely horrendous.
Yeah, I mean, off the back of that, he's pushed himself to 13 frags. In total, he's contributed to 15 of them with only 3 deaths, so has... I mean, effectively a 5-0 KD at the moment. And now it's going to be on relapse to start opening up this floor and establish the vertical angles. I mean, just the pressure mounting here for first attempt. Wichita Wolves in a position to, establish that vertical control. Hatches as well being open. They're doing everything right here on Clubhouse. Frag grenade being cooked here by relapse, waiting for that impact trick to come out. Trying to flush out the player that will be responsible for it. And Stokes going to be the first one to go down. Unfortunately, Devil just found the right angle, gunned down the Bandit. Night fell off the board once again, as Wholesale, surprise, surprise, will just be forcing his way down main stairs, looking to go for some big frags, deal with the Evil Eyes. And again, it's Wichita Wolves finding another. Tyrant guns down Bloom. The 2 impactful operators that would have disabled that slow, hard push, disabled the hard push that was coming out of Wichita Wolves and slowed them down, are now gone. Matt, this is looking desperate.
It's really going to be up to the defenders to challenge these angles. Casper is going to do exactly that, as relapse will be killed, but Casper takes quite a bit of damage from that engagement. Minute 10 left, and it's going to be up to Casper, PK, and Bait to hold off 4 attackers for Wichita Tyrant. But you see the swing from Devil. He will find Bait, but refragged by PK, as it will now be down. Casper's going to find his 2nd on a Wholesale. Tyrant with his 2nd on 2 PK. It's all up to Casper with only such low HP. Again, in the 1v3, Devil's going to be bleeding out, so an effective 1v2, but he will get picked up. Tyrant finishes things off. Wichita Wolves take their map pick of Clubhouse here, and we'll be going to Kafe, which is the pick for first attempt. But if you're definitely looking at that, one key player you got to look at, it's going to be Wholesale Milk. He absolutely did work on the Ash and the Jaeger on attack and defense, and he's somebody we didn't see at all last season, and he's definitely playing a huge part for these guys right here. Sauko, what did you have to make of that match?
Oh man, it was fun to watch. I'll start off by saying that it was very exciting. I mean, there were a lot of rounds that were potentially within both teams reach, but ultimately Wichita Wolves just came out and got those W's when they needed to. Honestly, it's the best way I can describe it. So fantastic job to them on a map number 1 here. And 7-2. Well, that's something that we almost had to expect from Wichita, just knowing their history on this map from last season. So I'm not really going to say anything too soon about Kafe yet, but I know for sure this clubhouse was fun to watch for me. Do you guys have any points too while we're waiting for the analysts to get all set up and everything like that? Any points
Look,
you guys want to make?
all I have to say is Wholesale Milk needs to change his name to Wholesale Slaughter, because that's exactly what it was. He won 4 of 9 opening gunfights. He got 4Ks. We're going to throw it over to the analyst now, who will go in more depth, breaking it down. How are we going, guys? Give us all the info on Clubhouse.
That Clubhouse was a heck of a match. Honestly, I was hugely surprised. Uh, uh, all I gotta say is WW, they're looking as strong as ever, dude. Um, Wichita Wolves, they were extremely adaptable. Their defense and their attacking rounds, they were just completely strong. Like, I had no words. Like, it was just crazy. Pon?
Oh, looks like I was muted there for a second. Yeah, no, the biggest impacts that they had coming in was Wholesale Milk and Devil just absolutely tearing up, as well as Tyrant, but Wholesale Milk being one of the newer players that they had brought in and going 13-4 throughout those 9 rounds, just an absolute animal. And Tyrant pulling up a near perfect cost throughout that, just absolutely insane. I mean, Devil getting a lot of opening kills. Don't have those stats right in front of me just yet, but 2 players coming up completely big, and I think they're really playing in the fact that it looked like first attempt was a little bit disorganized there. I mean, they are playing with a sub, that sub being Stokes, but even then, they did look a little bit disorganized. But nevertheless, Wichita Wolves played an absolutely lights out map.
Exactly. You know, they were having a little trouble playing together, as you can see in round 1. They lost their Capital and Thermite before 1 minute and 30 seconds. All right. Which is, you know, it's bad. It's a very bad situation. But, you know, it's 1 minute and 30 seconds. You guys still have time. So they went for the construction push. And it could have worked out well. But I will say in that one match, they were just pushing 1-on-1, and they just ended up swinging and didn't have any chance for a refrag. It didn't seem like they were playing together in a sense of just calling out what they were going to do. They just did it off of they just did it, and it's fine, you know. But ended up costing them the round in round 1, and we were able to see just how much of an overbearing presence Wichita Wolves has over first attempt.
Yeah, and that overwhelming presence really coming in there from Wholesale Milk, getting that opening kill on PK1, and that's your primary hard breach off. And I mean, it just really shows. It really shows that impact that he had. I really liked the attack coming in. I originally thought that they had rotated around and decided to go for the construction push instead of the CCTV wall push, now that they didn't have their thermite. But we saw in the later rounds that was really the push they'd come in from. One of the big things that I wasn't really liking about the first attempt attack was very one-sided. If you see here, as soon as they push everybody over to construction, that's the only push they have. They don't have a split push from coming in from CC wall. They don't have a split push coming in from garage, and it was something that really did limit their attacks a lot. I mean, they are having Stokes pushing down here from below, trying to gain some vertical pressure, but the vertical pressure not coming up with much. With the attackers playing on site, having Wholesale rotating around the way he had done, and we see him at the end of this round rotate up red stairs and close out the round for them. And even here you're seeing that vertical pressure being given up and them going for this horizontal take here. That's definitely something I'd like to see them. It's definitely something they're going to have to improve on and adapt to, especially in a map like Kafe.
No doubt, honestly. You can see some of the other examples of and of them not setting up properly for the take or execution as actually the round after round one. In round two, it's just a small example, but they had two people. They were going for a blue take, or they were trying to take control of blue in church defense, and they had two people on the hatches, no one on secret stairs, and they had Zofia push into blue, which would have been fine if they had someone on secret stairs. You need someone on the hatch, you need someone on the secret stairs, and you need someone on oil. In fact, you don't even need the people on the hatch. All you need is secret stairs and oil if you really want to take blue. But they didn't have any presence on secret stairs. So that Jaeger, he just ended up killing that Zofia in oil, and ultimately just that was just a waste of a life that could have been used to for utility or just even mad gun play, you know?
Yeah, and that's something that Wichita Wolves, I mean, they've done a great job at getting those opening frags, limiting first attempt to try and play a man down, try and catch him disheveled. I mean, first attempt is playing with a sub. I've said that, say it again. And Wichita Wolves, they have two new players. I mean, we are seeing the original three members of that original roster we saw when Season 3 played today, Faded, Devil, and Tyrant, still playing to the top of their potential, but playing with Wholesale has really elevated them to a new level. I'm really excited to see what they can bring in Kafe. And I one of the things I think I'd love to see on their defenses, as we are going to be seeing them start out on defense yet again, I want to see the roam game. I want to see if they can still have that same impact. And that nice duo of having Wholesale on that kind of lurking, ratty roam, getting those kills, keeping the attackers on their toes, and then having the absolute animal that is Devil holding down the site as the anchor. I'm really excited to see that duo play on Kafe.
Honestly, just to elaborate more on the fact that Wholesale was just an absolute machine. The opening kills on Wichita Wolves was 4 times that Hole had the opening kill 4 times throughout the entire 9-round match. And during those, in the opening deaths, Stokes was the opening death 5 times. Granted, he's a sub, I know, but 5 times Stokes was the opening death on first attempt. I think that's a big insane. And, you know, Hole having the opening frags 4 times, he's definitely playing his role as an entry fragger. You can see him just roaming around as Jaeger, getting those frags. That 4K on round 8 was incredible. He was doing his role. He was getting those frags just like he needs to. And ultimately, it opened up a lot of flexibility for Wichita Wolves.
And flexibility indeed. So I know that you had played Wichita Wolves in the quals. And I gotta ask, is this the same Wichita Wolves you've seen? I know they made a few roster changes, but what are the differences that you've seen between those two teams here today, at least in map 1?
Honestly, like, I'm scared of Hull. I would have been scared to go against them. I really would have been scared to go against Wichita Wolves with Hull on their team. They didn't have wholesale milk on, and I was there against them, but it was incredible. It was I love seeing him play. It was really great. All right, now we're gonna go bring it on to the casters. Thank you everybody for your time, and we will see you guys soon.
Thank you for that amazing analysis, Smith and Pond. So glad to be back here.
Yeah, we got Nash is still muted. But,
Oh no!
yeah,
Oh man, I'm here. I was having a bit of a moment there. I don't know what was going on, but in any case, guys, what an amazing map number 1. Clubhouse was fantastic, and it looks like we're going to be going into Kafe right now. Everyone was immediately ready, so we're going to kick it on over. Blue, Matt, thank you for everything, and we'll see you guys back here in a little while.
Yeah, I mean, Matt, look, we're going into the second match. 7-2 was the final scoreline in Clubhouse. That's a bit of a brutal result for first attempt. Wichita Wolves I mean, I'm excited to see what happens going on to Kafe. We're going to be right into the match, though. Kafe, Dostoevsky. We've headed over to Clubhouse. We're now going over to, you know, a bit of Russia. Going to head over to Kafe, get ourselves a nice little coffee, sit down, and unfortunately, the building is going to collapse around us as all the breaching happens. But, I mean, we're coming into operator bans. We saw how things played out. Maverick and Thatcher taken away in the last one. Probably not going to see the exact same verbatim bans, but probably something a little bit similar.
I'm going to expect to see a Maestro ban here, just considering how much Wichita Wolves relied on that and how much of an influence he was. I think you're going to see your standard Thatcher ban, yep. And I think the other attacker here, you might see a hard breach ban, but I don't think you're going to see anything really out of the ordinary. Oh, it's going to be a Maverick ban. So Thatcher Maverick again, not a factor, and that could prove to be first attempt's undoing. Just because we saw how much it really impacted them when they tried to go for those main hard walls. It wasn't necessarily as easy. Wamai is going to be banned yet again. He is so powerful in Pixel and many spots inside a bakery. You just don't want to deal with him. So they're going to get rid of him right off the board early.
Yeah, I'm not surprised at all that we're seeing Wamai. He's just such a key player on Kafe, Dostoevsky. So taking him away makes a lot of sense in my mind. The final ban, though, that's a little bit up in the air. We're going to see a Mirror,
Maestro.
we're going to see a Maestro. It's going to be a Mirror, so Maestro is going to be available. The Italian will be rocking it down here in Kafe, Dostoevsky if they do pick it up, and I wouldn't be surprised if they do. I mean, Devil, we saw just how many key positions he held with that operator, how many gunfights he won going into this Wichita Wolves, again, starting off on the defense. That's a scary prospect if you're a first attempt fan. Coming into this, the attack was a little bit lackluster on Clubhouse. I think that's pretty safe to say. Going onto it, at least now they are making some adaptations. You see PK is picking up the Nomad, is going to be playing that flank watch, denying the roam threat. Although already as we head to third floor cocktail bar, it doesn't seem like there's going to be a huge amount of priority around the roam, potentially wholesale milk. But at the moment, what they're running, it's looking pretty scary.
I saw the clash, but it looks like they're going to six them to a Malusi for Devil. And it looks like Thermite will be sixth for a cap here. So you have no hard reach, and that Capitao is definitely a pick to try and counter the clash. But I think that Devil kind of baited that pick on the 6. So definitely interesting when first attempt will realize they don't have a clash, and they don't have to worry about it. The non-existent clash. And they have a Capitao. But Capitao is still a really good operator all around. And it's not necessarily the worst pick, but definitely it could be very crucial if you don't have a hard reach. You will not be able to get open the top of piano wall, and that could prove to be your undoing. And we've seen what Wholesale Milk can do with the Ash and the Jaeger. He's an absolute monster. He does look very Goria-esque, and that is interesting to say. We saw Goria, I believe he had probably one of the highest costing KDs last season in SCS. So, I mean, he could be on track to be on the same path for Goria. Again, it's really early to tell. It is only one map, but he definitely looks like he is on top of his game today. Now, looking at the setup they have here, it looks like they are not going to try and hold Pixel here, as Casper's going to be looking for the spawn peaks, and Bait also doing the same, making sure they don't get their heads taken off, and it would be a very, very bad situation to be in. See, Stokes on the Capitao has the holographic sight now, looking to maybe try and repel by the new cocktail window, but also has to try and set a Claymore at the same time. Again, you see Relapse on the Maestro. That could prove to be very, very difficult to push into, especially when it comes down that fatal funnel. It's going to be Wholesale Milk opening things up. Casper will be eliminated. And already, Wholesale Milk doing, again, a really good job on the Jaeger and Ash.
Yeah, just like he is the one-man roam army here for Wichita Wolves, off on his own. Literally, I wouldn't even be surprised if Hole is in a channel. Hole is in a channel in Discord by himself, because like the dude just he's a unit unto himself, unstoppable, finds frags consistently around the map. And now, I mean, you saw just how hesitant first attempt were on their way into Kafe, and now they know that Wholesale Milk is now roaming off on his own. I well and truly believe they're kind of scared into this and contesting onto Pillar's window. That could be rough, especially given that it is Bait there on the sledge, who, I mean, the frag grenades from below could be hugely impactful. At the moment, drone economy as well, really suffering here for first attempt in this hole. We'll find Bloom in the end. This man is unstoppable. The Jaeger Ash main for this team of Wichita Wolves, and look, hey, it's an interesting situation. You don't often see it when you've got one frag player and 4 supports coming out, but that seems like it's the case. And it's not even that Wichita Wolves, the rest of the roster, aren't stepping up. It's just they don't have a chance to. Wholesale is doing the work already.
Yeah, and that's not necessarily a good situation to be in if your first attempt. You've already lost 2 main key players of the Ash and the Zofia, and you still have not been able to punish Wholesale Milk. He's been still able to run around the map completely uncontested, and the FLHP, it looks like he's going to be able to fall in through Skylight. They're not wasting any time. PK is going to go for a plant with Stokes in the cover, trying to flame off Freezer, rotate, Relapse will find PK on the attempted plant, and no longer will be a factor. Bait trying to light up one through the rotate hole. Wholesale will be punished, but he will be refragged by Faded. It leaves Stokes at the top by Skylight to pick off the rest of Wichita Wolves with only 34 seconds left to play. He'll find one onto Devil, maybe try and get a pre-fire towards Cocktail, but still net himself no kills on that attempt. See Stokes now at the top of New Hatch. He's bobbing his head up and down, trying to spray and bait out the opponents. Still trying to get something going, and I don't think he will be able to. He's got his frag, and he's just going to stay on the top of Red. Fake the drop, just try and get any more kills to pad the stats. He's gonna jump right on in. Prone with the rat-like performance here. He's got to swing out. He will hip fire, Faded with the SMG. And it will be Wichita Wolves winning out round number 1 here on Cafeteria. Oh, the prone plays from the Capiteo proved too much for the peak from Faded.
Yeah, I mean, I half anticipated that was going to be the play. I didn't think they were actually going to go for the Skylight drop. That's what I thought, given that they switched off the hard breach onto a Capitao. But that is not at all what I expected. I thought there was potential for it, but they didn't anyway. And unfortunately, it just didn't work. The crossfires were there, and
some beer in the chat.
They're having fun. They understand the position there, and they're just memeing a little bit now. And just you saw what happened. The second player that dropped in, he got I believe it was Bait, if I remember. He got 1 kill and then got murdered from this crossfire from Cocktail and Backstock as well as he tried to get out. And yeah, that was just, again, Wichita Wolves solidly in control. Wholesale did his job to it. He found 2 frags before going down himself. And just picking the Nomad isn't enough. They actually need to roam clear before they go for an execute onto the site. The fact that they took 2 solo gunfights against this player, knowing full well the impact that he can have on a map, speaks to that maybe first attempt are a little bit, underpowered coming into this with their sub. Yes, it is Stokes and all, but if they haven't been practicing with him, they are going to be at a disadvantage.
Even though your coach is in the game, it's not always beneficial because even though they have all the strategies planned out, in the moment, you don't always necessarily think about them. The pressure gets to you, and there are a lot of situations where it calls for improvisation, and that's where the IGLs really excel. And I believe because you don't have Jewel on the team, who is the standard IGL, it can prove to be very difficult, especially when you try and execute on the site. And you're seeing the repercussions of this. You're seeing first attempt not able to get anything going onto site. It calls for improvisation, and you're not able to do that. You go with the Skylight execute, and you don't have enough players. If you had all 5 players alive and they all vaulted in through Skylight, you would have stood a significantly higher chance to try and pull it off against Wichita. But because you're down in man advantage and Wholesale Milk is still running rampant, getting these opening kills, you have to punish him. If you punish Wholesale Milk, you will be able to capitalize on a lot of opportunities that first attempt really needs to do, and Wichita needs to stop really letting themselves do that for them.
Yeah, I mean, maybe a few more smokes would have been the play. Maybe a shield operator would have been the play. Just give them the cover they needed to actually go for the plant in that smoke. But coming into this, there has been another change. Stokes was the Thermite 6 picked it onto the Capitao. Now this round he's going to bring the Buck instead, so that verticality going to be coming in key. And once again, first attempt, they're going to be hitting straight in. No need to really go for that roam clear as the drones revealed there was no one in that position. So they can start that vertical game up. Skeleton Key and Sledgehammer just opening up the floor, making it that much harder to hold these defensive positions. And if they can find frags off the back of that, they can get a clean execute onto the bomb site. But like you said, Wholesale Milk has to be the priority here. They need to find some way to either get him off the bomb site so that he can't impact things, or just kill him outright. And in saying that, I mean, just that we've seen his frag potential. His gunplay is very, very clean. if they can't get the clean kill on him from above, they need to go on a 2v1 fight, force that man advantage, and look to go for the refrag at best, because I just don't think anyone on this first attempt roster can take wholesale milk in a one-on-one gunfight.
And it's not going to be easy, especially when you don't have a hard breach on the board. You have Hibana and Thermite, both options, and even an ace, and still teams aren't opting for that. Devil is going to punish Casper as he pushes in through prep, but Bait will get the refrag onto Faded. And picking up another kill will be Stokes on the Tyrant, but Devil rings back with the Maestro's Alda. He'll find Bloom, and now it's a 3v3, something we haven't seen necessarily, especially when it hits 40 seconds into the round. Devil's going to be relegated to position inside a small bakery, looking to try and hold the crossfire with the Alda. Making sure the opponents of first attempt don't know his position is going to be crucial here. But he is going to get spotted out with the drone, has to have to pre-fire, but there is Bait. He will escape that with just a sliver of HP, and now you see PK moving in with the Nomad, detonating the Goyo shield. 15 seconds left, and Bait is going to get killed from Relapse. But Stokes on the refrag will find Wholesale Milk with 10 seconds left. Relapse is going to find himself inside a mudroom. Fully flashes, PK is putting the diffuser down, and Relapse still trying to retake site. Spots out the buck and will down him, but no, he doesn't. He turns around, and Stokes picks up 3 kills.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's only so much you can do when there's no ammo. You thought he'd got the kill, just turned off. And by that stage, it was, he thought he'd got the down. Unfortunately, just whiffed his shots just a touch. And Stokes really, really stepping up there in that round, finding some big kills. And unfortunately, Casper, 2 rounds in a row now, going down to the opening. That's brutal. That's not going to be good for his mental. Now, though, we've brought it back to 1-1. First attempt has proved that they can get themselves on the board early. Going into Reading Room Fireplace, this is probably the best shot that First Attempt has at getting another round on board. And for the first time in the series, getting a round advantage.
I think Stokes is definitely trying to prove that stereotype of casters can't play. He is definitely going to try and show everybody that casters can play. And I know this is just a joke. Please don't roast me. I'm just kidding. Everybody can play, regardless of... Okay, I'm just gonna be quiet.
So some of us can play. Well, some casters can play. The others are like me. They what my friends like to call diamond brain, silver skills.
Yes.
Unfortunately, I just haven't been playing the game long enough to have the in-game skills that I need to. But I got the brain work for it.
I'm just not mechanically gifted when it comes to PCs. I get close, but I'm not that great at the end of the day. But we're not focusing on us. We're focusing on First Attempt in Wichita, and we're tied up 1-1 here on Kafe. First Attempt looking to try and get their first map here, and Wichita Wolves looking to get their second. Looks like it's going to be a standard dining and reading room hold here for Wichita, and they do have the Pulse and the Valkyrie. With Nitro Cell Bonanza, an absolute possibility with Mute, Goyo, Pulse, and Valkyrie all possessing one in their pocket.
Yeah, I mean, look, Nitro Cell Bonanza, as Chief likes to call it, or me, as I'm a fan of Helen and Nitro Cell. It's the strategy. You got 4 on the board. You've got that Pulse feeding information, the Valkyrie feeding information. This is a game of the floor is lava here. You just cannot stand still for a second. If you're on First Attempt, you need to constantly be moving, constantly looking for those operators to try and find frags. So it's really just going to be an unfortunate round to play out at the best of times. First Attempt, they need to keep their head on their shoulders. They need to be paying attention to what's going on. Audio cues are going to be huge here. If they're not listening into what's going on, again, they could find themselves at a huge deficit. But at the moment, First Attempt, they're looking to try and get themselves in. Bloom going to be the first one in on the 3rd floor, just straight into by the piano. Looking to go for a contestant shot, but there's no one there. Look at that Tyrant from below. Nitro Cell does go out. It was pre-placed there by Faded. Not going to catch anyone. Second one comes out. One of his own. Unfortunately, just not in the right spot that stage. The saving grace here for First Attempt could have been rather rough, but this is where the verticality starts up. They're opening up the floor in Cigar Lounge. You can't keep that position on the defense, especially now that they've used 2 Nitro Cells already. They've only got 2 left, and they need to be smart where they place them.
Those nitro cell placements are going to be crucial if you want to try and take out any of the members trying to play vertical here. First attempt doing a really good job trying to get as much map control as possible. This Bloom is going to be entry droning, looking to try and establish any kind of intel for his teammates to execute on. We see Casper. He is going to be inside of main corridor, trying to spray down one. He'll get a beautiful shot on a Tyrant. And that already is the opening frag for first attempt. They needed that, and they don't get them all that often. When they do, it definitely proves to be beneficial. Faded gonna find himself in the corner of dining, and now PK will find Relapse. He's gonna have to push into a corner. Faded turns his back, and he will be eliminated. Bunch of bodies fall as Bait finds Wholesale, and Bloom will be picked off by Devil. It's all up to the Zofia of, not Zofia, Devil on the Goyo to try and make something happen. He'll down the Zofia, but Stokes cleans it up here as Devil will be killed. First attempt. Have 2 consecutive rounds here.
2 consecutive rounds, and Casper, he's finally got one back. He's now 1 for 2 in opening gunfights. Has been involved in all 3, surprisingly enough, but again, it's another situation where the opening gunfight has translated into a round win, and what a convincing one it was. It just found the angles, they found the positioning. And from there, the momentum was immense. Just a quick peek around the corner into 90, takes the head off a Tyrant. And then from there, we saw that swing on onto Faded, into Fireplace. It just, the gunfight after gunfight after gunfight went the way of first attempt. Now, though, this is a bit rough, Matt. We're going to be heading back up to 3rd floor Bar and Cocktail. The last time we were here, it wasn't a nice day for first attempt. Maybe for Stokes, but the rest of the team, they really struggled.
Right now, first attempt is looking very strong. This is their map pick, so they should be prepared for it. And just a little quick, did you know, in map 1, Wholesale had a 1.44 KD, going 13-4 throughout the entire whole map. 7-2 victory for him will follow for his team. So that's a really good KD to go through, especially considering this is T3, and a lot of people are absolutely really good gunners, so you gotta keep that in mind. And we're gonna be seeing the top floor defense from Wichita. This was the only site they've won so far on the defensive side, and look at this, they got a deployable shield set up inside a bathroom. Now, a lot of teams have been opting for this setup rather than the pixel spot, because if you hold bathroom, it also gives you the ability to rotate out if you reinforce the left side of the wall, and I think that's exactly what they're attempting to do here. They'll open up the hatch inside a piano, and that will allow nitro cells and a little bit more of sound cues for the Malusi playing below. This is a really good setup from Wichita, and hopefully first attempt will be able to capitalize on that situation. But Wichita looking really strong here. First attempt also in the lead. Gotta keep in mind, they do have the momentum on their side, but Wichita looking to strike back with these interesting strategies of their own.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely an interesting map so far. For the first time, Wholesale Milk has a negative KD throughout this series, which is bizarre given how the performance went in map number 1. At the moment, first attempt, they're definitely looking to claw themselves back in the series, go for that draw, get themselves some points on the board. Devil in Mining Museum, in Trade Museum, swung on. And that's a great opening kill to be finding. Devil has been one of those standout players for Wichita Wolves for the longest time. Bait taking some big damage, so is Bloom as well, and they're being contested quite heavily. Wholesale Milk as well going down early. PK finds that gunfight, and who knows, maybe it's a situation where first attempt needed a full map to warm up, but now they're coming into it, they've found their stride, and they are taking some very, very convincing gunfights.
Definitely helps when you're up 5-3 in terms of man advantage, and also leading in terms of round differential. Tyrant gonna be holding the shield inside a bathroom. PK is gonna be taking quite a bit of damage from at the top of red inside a cigar. We see a fully flashed operator, and I'm not sure who that was. Maestro of Relapse and Cade of Tyrant. The last 3. I'm sorry, I missed Faded. Faded's also alive. He's gonna be well by Drywall, trying to support Tyrant here inside of bathroom. Just over a minute left to play, and it's up to the 3 members of Wichita Wolves on defense to hold off the rest of the onslaught that is first attempt and their attack here. Bane's gonna push up inside of Cigar Shop, look to try and contest Relapse, who has bullet holes here. Maybe try and get the spray, but Casper gets the better of that end. Zofia will take him out. Faded and Tyrant, the last two alive. Stokes is planting the bomb, and now Bait will find Faded. It's all up to Tyrant, who drops down the hatch through Piano. Diffuser is planted. We find ourselves in a post-plant situation, sprinting up the main stairs. Ash, do you have ears? Oh my goodness, a flick from Bloom will find Tyrant. First attempt will win that round, and a flawless one at that. Let's see this flick here. I'm interested. Oh, what's the flick? Just interesting.
The first flawless round win of the season, Matt, and first attempt, do it quite convincingly. As much as we have said, you know, Wichita Wolves, they've looked on their game, they're coming into this, they're doing incredibly well. Now it seems that the switch has flicked, and all of a sudden, it's first attempt. They're pushing, they're playing off of each other, they're communicating, using all that information to get themselves the frags in the round win, and that was just this unstoppable wave of momentum that came at Wichita Wolves, and they just couldn't stand up to the test at the end of the day. Now we're going back to third floor bar and Cocktail. This time, I think Wichita Wolves understand the situation they're in. They're down 3-1 on map 2 of the series. Devil's going to bring out Clash, go for something a little bit different. The frags just aren't there for this Wichita Wolves team. Tyrant, you know, at this stage in map number 1, had found a huge number of frags, had been hugely impactful in the round. He's 0-3 right now. He has yet to really stand up and contribute in the way that he did on Clubhouse. And it's almost looking like a different Wichita Wolves team.
And I think that could just come down to maps. A lot of teams aren't comfortable with certain maps, and other teams are more comfortable. We obviously saw Wichita was very comfortable on Clubhouse, and that really has been their map moving forward from last season, and it looks like into this season. I think you'll see Clubhouse start to be banned by a lot of teams because it is one of those comfort maps. And if teams really want to step up into that next level, they will have to look at other maps such as Kafe, such as Theme Park. And I know they're not necessarily the best maps that teams can choose. If you have strategies that work, if you have teams that are coordinated and can move together and work as well a relative team, you will be able to be successful regardless of how good the other team is in terms of gunfight. If your strategies are set up, if you have the correct just setups, the execution comes second nature.
Yeah, and the setup is going to be there this time. We'll see if the adaptations they've made are the ones that are needed. Devil going to be the one holding Pixel. This is an interesting approach here, but I mean, first attempt, they're aggressing onto the roof. Look at that, Stokes, he's the one contesting Skylight. The man has yet to die going into round number 5. That's not a bad performance so far on the second map of the series, given that, you know, the way Clubhouse went, there were some unfortunate gunfights, some unfortunate situations where Stokes himself got caught out and punished quite heavily. Wholesale Milk, again, it just comes out of the fact maybe it's a lack of familiarity here. They're not quite as sure and confident of themselves going into Cafe Dostoevsky as they were on Clubhouse. It's just a map that they know incredibly well. And the verticality coming in, threatening from below, trying to flush out that Maestro player on Cocktail area. They know he's there, the ping's coming out. Relapse is trapped right now. This is not a good situation to be in. Nade coming in for a bait. Will it land? No, unfortunately for now, he is safe, and first attempt aren't going to be able to flush him out, but just more chip damage being done. He's prone in the middle of the floor, trying to find an area to hold, and PK repels in, unfortunately, just completely obliterated by Relapse there. And it was a bold attempt, but they just still haven't found the kill onto him. Finally, he's going to go down, but at the cost of Bait being killed out as well. So much invested here by first attempt.
No, the Maestro's still
and they
alive.
only got, oh no, they got Wholesale Milk instead. They still haven't been able to find Relapse. They're just desperately trying to find one player. So many resources committed to the one person that it's feeling like they're undoing themselves this round.
Definitely in a 4v3, Wichita is favored in terms of man advantage. We see Bloom crouching up red stairs, maybe trying to get the drop onto the defenders in sight. But Casper and Stokes both lit up in the altercations from earlier. Stokes can be relegated to the roof position, where last time we saw him pick out a couple of people before ultimately not being able to clutch out the round. 125 seconds left. It's going to be a last-ditch effort from these guys. Lifeline in hand from Casper's, and it looks like it'll just be a vault in through Skylight. Flashbangs keep coming out here, and they're looking to try and desperately push in. Toxic Babes ring out, and here's the jump in. Bloom will TK Casper, and he will fall to Devil. It's all up to Stokes, but he can't finish it against Faded and the SMG-11. Wichita Wolves win another round here, and we're tied up 2-2 here going into round 6.
It's 3-2 at the moment.
3-2, sorry.
But I mean, I don't blame you. That was an incredibly chaotic round. they spent so long just trying to deal with relapse. They committed 3 players overall. PK swung in. They had the Zofia and the Ash from below trying to destroy the floor and make it impossible to hold. That was a huge overcommitment of resources. When they finally went for it, it was again that straight skylight drop. It cost them incredibly. Bloom shot the back of Casper's head and took him out of that gunfight. So they were a man further down by the time they actually got onto the bomb site. You've got to hope they can bring it back here. That round is going to be demoralizing. It's going to be playing on them. Like we just approached that the wrong way. Now though, they're going to be heading down to Kitchen. It's the bomb site. They first won on this map, so they could secure themselves that 4-2 half. But hopefully that last round isn't going to impact them as much as it possibly could have.
Well, we've seen them win only 2 defenses for Wichita, and that came at the top floor. And I believe, yeah, their only site they've won so far has been top floor. Now relegating themselves to the kitchen site, it could prove to be a little bit more challenging. First attempt has been overall very successful in the executes that they've had. But the rounds that Wichita have won, it's been off the back of the Jaeger. He's been able to frag and get crucial kills. Devil and Wholesale Milk really need to step up here if they want to tie this up and go into a 3-3 split. First attempt looking to make it a 4-2 with an execute from most likely the top-down position. When you have all of the members of Wichita inside of sight or close on the bottom floor, it can be really easy to just flush them out with that vertical pressure. But this time, it looks like Wholesale Milk has learned his lesson, and he will be roaming all the way upstairs, forcing first attempt to do a full roam clear. He'll find himself at the top of White Stairs, and here comes the attack from first attempt, and Wichita Wolves looking to hold it off here. Going to the map, 3-3, as it looks like it's going to be a standard take from all the way top to bottom.
Yeah, coming in around number 6 though, it took them 5 rounds to finally kill Stokes. They got there in the end, but 7-0-1, not the worst situation. That is the worst situation. Just Bloom, you need to have your head on a swivel. He is taken out by Wholesale Milk, surprise, surprise. And they just aren't respecting the roam threat coming out of this player who has been doing it from start to finish of the series. He was doing it all through Clubhouse. He's been doing it largely throughout Kafe. That's not a good situation. There was no drone there watching White Stairs. They had no anticipation of the fact that he could be in that position. And it's mistakes like that that cost you rounds.
The mistakes definitely start to add up, and they become even more prevalent as you tick further into the best of 2s, especially in map 2. You gotta try and make a name for yourself and push in. Casper's going to be lit up a lot from the vertical pressure. Might have been by the hands of a nitro cell, and I think it might have been. Tyrant rang out with one. He will find himself at such low HP, he might be able to be breathed on. Tyrant's going to find himself all the way downstairs inside of prep, and the deployable shields set up here inside of dining from Wholesale. It's actually going to be a Goyo shield, so he has to be very careful here, and if the attackers can use it against him, this could be his undoing. Wholesale Milk now getting pushed by Stokes and Bait. The double pressure could prove to be fatal. He's going to try and swing Bait at the top of White Stairs, now finding himself behind the deployable shield, forcing the attackers to move back. Here comes the Goyo shields being detonated from the Zofia, and there's PK finally taking him out. It took almost all the members of first step to take it back, but Faded's going to choke out Casper with the Toxic Babe, and PK looking to try and find another one here with a long angle inside of dining. With 30 seconds left, they have the top floor control, but have not been able to establish any kind of horizontal control. Relapse is going to find himself inside a mudroom yet again, and last time he was in this position, he was able to do quite a bit of damage on to Buck inside of mudroom. Faded's going to continue to put up Toxic Babes and hold off the attack from first attempt. Time is not on their side, but PK is going to find one on the Tyrant, but he will be refried by Devil. Now Bait looking to try and push in a Cypher. Relapse is there. Stokes, the last one alive with 3 seconds left. He'll fall all the way back to Freezer rotate, but no. Wichita Wolves will tie it up 3-3 here as we move into the swap. And I don't think you could have a closer game than this, Blue. What is your take on that last few rounds from Wichita?
I mean, honestly, rounds like the second round, second through fourth, in fact, were just far cleaner by first attempt. They got themselves in. They were playing cohesively. The communication was there. And then for some reason, that third floor attack on round number 5, They were so focused on getting relapse out of position. They committed so many resources it undid them. Then the same thing in that last round. I don't know quite what it was. They were too busy trying to deal with wholesale milk, and by that stage, they don't have players. I think they're overcommitting resources and positions they don't need. Now going onto the defense, though, it's a 3-3 half. Starting off on the attack, that's not the worst situation for first attempt to be in. Now this is where they need to establish a lead. Stokes picks up the Maestro, and that could be the defining factor in this, especially given that they're going up to the third floor. They should have all the tools they need to be able to close this round out, get themselves a fourth on the board. But at the moment, it's rather rough. Oh, already, yeah, there you go. Did you know, map number 1, Stokes went 5 and 8. So far, he's already bested that. He's 7 and 1, which, I mean, he saved his stats in that last round, but there was really no time to play with anyway. Now coming into this, first attempt, they've got a solid lineup in terms of defenders. They've got 3 nitro cells, so they can utilize that. They've got information gathering tools in the form of the evil eyes and the black eyes. This is probably the roster that is going to give them the best shot at a win.
I think what you see from Wichita right now is a very, very aggressive style attack. We saw it on Clubhouse, and they could translate that over to Kafe rather easily. Bloom looking for the spawn peak spray through the barricade at the top of piano window, but will not net himself anything, nor even a lick of damage on to the attackers of Wichita, who seem to be going for a west side repel here, and nobody is going to try and contest that from Wichita. I'm sorry, excuse me, first attempt. And looks like it's just going to be a standard hatch take here, hold skylight, and hopefully win some engagements. From what we've seen from Wichita on Clubhouse, it's been an overall very successful attack when they start to get open those hard walls. Something we didn't see from first attempt on the attack was they did not focus on Thermite. They didn't focus on Hibana. They did have them, but their priority was not to get open those main hard walls. No, it was just to go for that vertical pressure. And you do not see an ace either. I think that would be a crucial factor, as Casper is going to take a little bit of damage from Tyrant on the rappel. He's going to get run out on, though, and he will escape that situation. Wholesale Milk will punish PK inside a bakery, as he was not able to land all the shots on a Tyrant who could have easily been killed there.
Yeah, it was a rather tenuous spot. Tyrant, you can see him visibly panicking a little bit. The man is already 0-1 and 4, so any worse is going to definitely start to play on the mental side of things. Bait loses that shield that he had on Pixel. Will just pull back into that tight angle that you often see those SAS operators holding in bathrooms or washrooms, depending on where you're from. M590, a very, very powerful gun in those close, tight angles. At the moment, Wichita Wolves are doing due diligence. They're spending a lot of time droning, looking for that information before they go for that hard execute onto the site. Look at that Wholesale Milk. He's on Cigar Balcony at the moment, looking across, trying to find any defender who sticks their head out. And the man is definitely coming back into form at the moment now on the attack. He found that opening frag onto PK, heavily punished. He's back on the Ash, which he knows so well. And at the moment, first attempt, they're a man down, that Nitro Cell as well off the board. They're going to have to play this one very, very smart.
Being a man down especially makes it so difficult to attack. Looks like Relapse is going to leave the game, though, so it's a 4v4. Quickly made a 4v3 as Bloom picks up Devil. And already, Bloom's going to be taking quite a lick of damage. Here's Wholesale Milk trying to push in through Freezer with 28 seconds left. They're going to have to execute rather quick. Ash Charge is going to come out by Bloom, and he will get downed by it. Don't know if Wholesale knows that he was down, but he does have to take that intel with a grain of salt. Stokes will find Baited with the Maestro's Alda. Pistol in hand as Tyrant's looking to try and execute. He'll find Wholesale. No, it will be Bait finding Wholesale, and he will finish off the Jaeger. It looks like he tries to finish off the Goyo too, but Bait's there with a shotgun. Meets him with a buckshot. Tyrant will fall.
Yeah, just unfortunate disconnect there means that they are now at a huge disadvantage. They've got to force something because, I mean, a large part of their attack relied on having that 5-man roster still available to them. We are just waiting on confirmation as to a rehost or what's happening with that. Hopefully he can get himself back in, but round advantage now back in the favor of first attempt. It's the first round they've won in a couple so far, and the call is there from Wichita Wolves. They're going to go for the rehost, and that was a much better round coming out of first attempt. Yes, you lost PK on the run-out attempt trying to kill Tyrant, but the rest of the team, they held their positions, they played their angles, And from there, it was a case of Wichita Wolves now have to force their way in to try and contest before they go for that plant attempt. And you saw that just that. I mean, Tyrant had to go in for the force. He went into backstock, didn't realize that there was still a player in washroom, and that's exactly what happened. You saw the M590 come out. Bait found 2 off the back of it. Yes, he used the prone form of his teammates on the ground as bait, but hey, if it translates into a round win, it's worth it at the end of the day. And we are going to be having Nash joining us back in a second. But Matt, it's been a far closer map this time round.
It absolutely has been, and I think that just comes down to first attempt kind of warming up. They took that first map of Clubhouse just a chance to try and really regain themselves, and I think after the confusion between substitutions and stuff, they finally feel comfortable with what they're playing with. But again, Wichita is also playing with subs, but again, you have experienced people in SCS, and they're used to the best of 2 format, so I think that goes a long way. And it looks like we're going to be doing a little bit of a feed replay here, as we have some time before we jump back into this one, and it's going to be a replay of round 5, which was the round that we saw Wichita able to turn it around on defense. I think that just comes down to basically how well they were able to utilize their utility. Wow, good job, Matt. Utilize how well their operators really, I want to say, synergize with each other.
Yeah, the synergies were definitely there. You got Devil playing on the Clash. That is automatically going to slow you down. You've got the Vulcan shields or the Goyo. Again, another thing that is going to slow down any attacking lineup. They just had a lot of tools which were going to make it very, very hard for first attempt to go for what you consider a conventional push, going through Cigar Lounge, push in, clear over towards White Hallway, and then look to execute from both Cigar and White Hallway at the same time into Cocktail. So the tools were there. It definitely hampered what first attempt were trying to do, and to the point where at the end of the round they just went for that straight Skylight drop once again, which we've seen how that goes with them, Matt. It's not clean, it's not pretty, and it kind of went rather horribly for them in the end. So it's definitely Wichita Wolves having that understanding of how their operators are meant to work together and pulling that off rather flawlessly. Now though, we're going on to the next half. You've got to hope that first attempt can do the same. They need to push that round advantage, get themselves that win, because I mean, points are points at the end of the day. You want to get them. And Wichita Wolves have proved that they are well and truly a force to be reckoned with already. Map number 1, 7-2. Already, we're getting to the point where we're well and truly we're going to head past that anyway. But Wichita Wolves, they might actually lose out the second map. With the first attempt definitely coming into play here in map number 2.
And it's a completely different ball game when you switch maps, and it just comes down to preparation, because there are some teams that prepare well for Clubhouse, and you saw that from Wichita Wolves. They were very comfortable on it. Now we switch over to Kafe, which is first attempt's pick, and they look very comfortable on this one. So this is the reason why best of 3s exist, but unfortunately that's not what we do here in SCS. It's going to be a best of 2, because that third map can usually determine a lot. Again, we rely on the point system. We don't rely on the other ones. But without further deliberation and talk about points, we're going to jump back into the game after a successful rehost. And it will be first attempt on the defense of Wichita Wolves on the attack, coming off of a win on the round for first attempt, who have found themselves in the lead 4-3. Blue, what are your thoughts going into these possibly final few rounds for these two teams?
I'm excited to see how it plays out. I mean, given the bans that have been taken off, the fact that which is such a key operator on the defense on Kafe, isn't available, it would have been interesting to see how this map played out with him in the the defensive lineups. That Cigar push would have been all the harder here. But at the moment now, we're going to be heading back to Kitchen Service. Stokes on the Valkyrie this time, as there are some 6 picks happening there. Devil can't decide which hard breacher he wants to bring. It's going to be Hibana in the end. But the last round was very, very solid. It was first attempt playing their angles, playing their positions incredibly well. Now coming into this, they've brought the Mute Mozzie combo. They're going to be denying a huge amount of information with that. The drones aren't going to be nearly as reliable as our Wolves. So this is going to come down to some very, very raw gunfights. And Wholesale Milk, we've literally mentioned his name almost every single round so far, is going to be that player. He's going to be the brute force tool that they need to get themselves into the bomb site, because if he can lead the charge, the rest of the team can follow up. They can get themselves back to a 4-4 standing.
Getting back to a 4-4 is definitely on the radar for Wichita Wolves. They're looking to try and push themselves back into the lead, by tying up the game will give them a lot of momentum going forward. But first attempt looking very strong here on their defense, and their attacks were looking just as well. With looking at how good the attack from Wichita Wolves was on Clubhouse, right now, you have to look at and think they need to start doing the same exact thing. They need to have the Ash of Wholesale frag out. Get more intel for this man. He can absolutely go on a tear if you let him.
And they're setting themselves up here. First attempt. They need to push this lead after the rehost. They want to go to 5-3. They want to get themselves closer to that match point, even up this series, get themselves some points on the board. They've got a lot of tools to be able to do it. It's really going to come down to that execute. I'm definitely looking at Stokes to step up here with the Valkyrie, use those cameras, provide information for the team, and from there they can look to string the frags together and get the round win. At the moment, though, this big insurmountable odd, it's Wholesale Milk. If he can get into the building, if he can get frags, which they already are, they are already third level. We're not even done with the first minute. They're looking to open things up. They're looking to establish that vertical control. They've got the buck as well. They have got so many tools to make it that much harder to hold down on the first floor that if first attempt aren't playing their angles, if they aren't winning their gunfights, this could quickly swing out of control for them.
They'll really need to focus on getting this roam clear done rather quickly. If they cannot do it enough in that sort of fashion, they will be at a disadvantage when it comes down to the fatal funnel or the last second push. When you hit that minute mark, you already want to have that vertical control, and right now we're seeing that from Wichita. They are not wasting any time getting it.
Relapse on the buck, going to be opening up the floor in 5 places. That's the team positioning themselves, trying to figure out how they want to execute onto the bomb site. Look at that Devil as well in position. Going to be opening up VIP entrance on the garage door there anyway. PK going to be the player holding it on that mute. Flash is coming out, trying to stop him from contesting onto the angle, because if he can win that gunfight, he can make it incredibly hard for them to actually execute the push. Like we saw when it was first attempt going for that execute onto the kitchen bomb site. You stall out in the right position, it makes it that much harder for them to go and get in and go for the plant. Bloom taking some vertical damage. Got to be careful where he's holding in kitchen at the moment. Devil looking to peek onto the shield. Knows that PK is playing that position, but can't find anything at the moment. And there we go. Crossfire established. Wholesale in from behind, but it's even faded. All of a sudden, multiple players here from Wichita Wolves executing onto the first floor. They've got the man advantage. Yes, Wholesale is low. Relapses. Stokes holding in coat check. This is very rough for first attempt. They're losing players, losing positional advantage. Bait is going to have to go huge here with Casper and Bloom to shut this one down. The execute coming here with 24 seconds left. They open up Freezer. Wholesale, again, leading the charge straight into the waiting arms of Bait with that M590 is going to be waiting there, but Casper unfortunately cannot get one of his own. It's all coming apart here for first attempt on the defense. It's now on Bloom in a 1v4 situation. No health left. He's got 25 in total. Flash out. Bloom is completely blinded. And Matt, in this situation, his best hope is 1, maybe 2 frags if he can find them. It's all very, very dire. And Devil shuts it down. Wichita Wolves, they've brought it back to even after the rehost.
That is a great way to get momentum in your favor. An absolute sweeping round from Wichita Wolves. And the push through Freezer really just overwhelmed first attempt. They'll tie it up 4-4 here, and already we're seeing a huge plays from Wichita as they are looking to try and establish themselves in the lead here, not being phased by anything that first attempt is throwing at them. Look at this, Blue. We're bringing a Warden. PK is now opted to bring a Warden. What do you have to say about that?
That's an interesting one, especially given that Bait is going to be the one taking the 6th pick for the Maestro. I mean, Warden, he's seen a little bit of a rise in power now that he has that 1.5 times on the EX. It's not the worst gun to bring. And saying that he might even bring the M590, there's no way to know until we actually get into the round. But yeah, he is. He's bringing the M590. So he's going to be fulfilling, I imagine, the same role that we saw PK fulfilling in VIP room. But we'll also have the benefit of not being flashed out. Wichita, there you go. Did you know in map number 1, 5 of 6 defensive rounds, here they only won 3 of them. So already, first attempt, they're bringing it back. They're winning the rounds. They're getting themselves in this series to contest. 4-4, we're 1 round away from matching the rounds we saw in the last map already, Matt. And that is still not the end point here. Going into this, though, they need to be winning their gunfights. There's been a couple already so far where it's just been they got flanked out. The fact that Wichita Wolves executed a 3-man push over towards that VIP whiskey area and just clutched out every single person in that position and then swept across, got the bomb site, is very, very telling. There was no real answer from first attempt and how to deal with it.
First attempt looking to try and hold off Wichita Wolves, who have been very, very strong on the attack here. And I'm not sure the Warden is actually the most I want to say, advised pick, just because he doesn't bring enough to the team in order for him to warrant really a pick. I mean, he's good if you're trying to correctly counter Glaz, stop the smoke pushes, but so far, we haven't really seen that. And I think necessarily PK's reasoning behind bringing it is to try and stop the flashbangs and just try and contest the angles, which Warden is good at inherently, but if you have ADSs, it's not necessarily the worst idea to just play behind those. I know Wamaya's banned, so that also tries into the utility burn meta, so maybe he's gotten a little bit more playtime. But if you're not going for the MP5 or the 1.5, you're really putting yourself at a disadvantage by taking that shotgun. You already have, I believe, a smoke with a shotgun, but actually they don't have a smoke with a shotgun, so maybe they're just relying on that. Relapse would be above, trying to hold as much of vertical pressure as possible. He's going to get that rather uncontested, too. Just making sure that there are no rotates from the defenders who can really get a ton of control. Look at this. PK set himself up inside a VIP, has the SMG-12 in hand. It's the only gun that he can rely on in order to get kills. Free fires are peeking up from behind the shield. He'll land the shots on the drone, looking to try and finish it off here on to the push from Wichita. And we saw them execute rather well on the backside here, but Bloom taking quite heavy damage as PK looking to hold off and stall time. He's taking some damage, now falling all the way back as his shield has been killed from below him. Relapse now finding himself a sliver of HP. We hit a minute left, and Tyrant, he's trying to pick off the rotate from the Warden of PK. Under a minute left to play, and it's going to be a 5v5.
Yeah, position's well and truly given away. Is lots of shots coming out. They know Wholesale's on brown stairs at the moment, pushing in aggressively onto Whiskey, gets taken down. No, Blue! His team killed out Casper, so man advantage is equalized there. Overcommitment in players as they all hungry for the frags. Gives Wichita Wolves the best shot they have at going for that execute. Bloom still very low. Casper was full health at that point. Tyrant guns down PK, who was over in that pivotal angle there, looking to try and hold in VIP, has pushed in behind where Wholesale was. It's all getting a bit chaotic as this round is coming down to it. Stokes with the long-range Nitro Cell brings the man count even once again from Kochek, playing the anchor in this role, trying to keep them in it and giving them that grounding. Swing from Devil is going to get the refrag on Debate, who downed his teammate. So man advantage very, very close right now. Plant is going down. Bloom knows that here's the audio cues, but this pull from Relapse means that he's not going to be able to commit. This is getting chaotic, Matt. It's coming down to the wire. One player down, player alive on each team. No! He spots out the foot, and all of a sudden, it's going to be Stokes to get the defuse. I don't even think he knows that there's one player left, and he's on the ground. He's going to see it. He does. There we go. He's finally figured it out. Stokes with a quad kill in the round.
Who said
is going to get first attempt. Another on the board. 5-4 at the moment. Well, Stokes certainly can. Every facet of the game, gunfights and Nitro Cell placement, and there you go. Great round from the man himself. And Wichita Wolves, they lose control of that round quite quickly.
Yeah, Wichita, they tried it, and it did not work out. They had the crossfires established, but it just wasn't enough to hold off the Valkyrie flanking. A beautiful Nitro Cell took out Tyrant on the window, and then it just came down to retaking site. Even with the Nitro Cells in play, Wichita was able to get the plant down, and it just came down to retaking site. And first attempt did that really well. They had the intel on their side. They knew the plant was going down by Freezer. And actually, I gotta hand it to PK. He stalled a ton of time with that Warden, and I'm surprised it worked so well. Usually you see a Wamai in that situation, and it just works out so much better with that operator. Now Warden can play that position. Oh my goodness. You will see a lot of teams start to maybe lean towards that. With that shield, with his ability, he can hold those long angles. Now, I don't necessarily agree with the shotgun pick. If you go with the 1.5, I think you'll have a much easier time at trying to contest behind that shield, especially when you're playing at a little bit of a range, but he played that well. So again, this pick is first attempts map. Clubhouse was Wichita Wolves, and first attempt will find themselves up 5-4 here.
5-4. It's the biggest advantage the first attempt have held so far in the series. And coming into this, it's going to be Reading Room Fireplace. Already, we see some interesting picks coming out on the board. Decade trying to lock down the hatches. I would imagine deny that vertical pressure. The drop from below, it faded. Just punishing Bloom off the bat. I can only imagine it was that piano peak once again. Yeah, he was on the bar in Cigar Lounge. Just absolutely obliterated, over aggression, heavily punished, and with 2 minutes 30 left to play, Matt, man advantage solidly in the attacking side's favor.
Could be very, very beneficial for Wichita as they hit the 2-minute and 20-ish second mark. They already have a kill to their name, and they're looking to try and make some more here. But with PK holding underneath Skylight, it will be very difficult for them to execute here.
PK holding in bar itself, ready for that contest on the Valkyrie. They've got some interesting operators on the board that are going to make it very, very hard. Nade does go deep into bar. PK tagged up. Casper will get the refrag though onto relapse. The Carly going down. Wholesale Milk guns down Tyrant from behind. At least they find a follow-up onto PK as a consolation. But 2 rounds in a row, 2 team kills. But at the moment, it means Devil can push in, get more of that vertical control. Wholesale, they're still trying to get towards that second floor. It isn't a 3rd floor bar bomb site. It's downstairs. They've got to check all their angles. They're running out of information. And all of a sudden, this man advantage, which looked to be very, very even, gets swung wildly out of control as players going down both sides. Wichita Wolves, they had a positional advantage. They could have established themselves quite well for this execute, but Wholesale just too quick on the trigger, guns down the Zofia, and that's a key operator in this attack. Bait will be gunned down as well. This time it's on an enemy. Wholesale actually clicking the right players. Loses a lot of health for his efforts, and Devil peeking into reading at the moment. They've got a crossfire, more gunshots into the back, almost into the back of these defensive players. And Stokes on a heavy roam with that MP5 could catch some big flanks.
Yeah, but he's going to get spotted out by Wholesale. He'll find his second of the round. And now it's all up to Casper in the 1v3, looking to try and get this post-plant situation denied. But Devil's going to be putting that diffuser down. He'll find Faded during that altercation, though. Looking to try and swing out, sprays through the wall behind the reinforcement. He'll have to rotate upstairs and maybe get some of this vertical pressure against him. But there's somebody playing at the top of New Cocktail Window. Does he spot him? He's on the rappel. He hears the sound cue, but can't necessarily find out where he is. Looking every which way, waiting for the pings to come out. Casper's going to be forced to rotate. He'll get spotted out, though. Devil will find his 3rd on the round. Casper will be killed. Wichita Wolves pull it back here, and we're at a 5-5, and we could be seeing our first infinite overtime possibility soon here enough.
Yeah, and we are heading to that position where it's round trade after round trade. PK almost had the position that he needed to capitalize. Unfortunately, that nade meant he couldn't quite hold there, had to pull out of the angle and just got gunned down. Going into round number 11 though, Matt, it's 5-5. We're heading back upstairs to 3rd floor. Stokes is back on the Valkyrie. Now, the last time they went to this bomb site, they won it. They won it quite well. Off of the back of positioning from Bait and Washroom. You've got to imagine that Wichita Wolves, a team that is well known for its capability to adapt in these tight and pressure-driven situations, are going to realize that he was a deciding factor in how that round played out. They need to contest Washroom. They need to do it quite well. And on the other side of things, you need to you need to hope that first attempt realized that Bloom going for a spawn peek off the bat might not be contributing as much as they think.
I'm not sure the spawn peaks are necessarily the most, I'd say, advised play, considering that they really haven't gotten you much, and the risk is just too high. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I mean, if it works out, great. If it doesn't, oh boy, you better face the repercussion of your teammates, because they'll be pissed at you. You don't want to try and lose those early round engagements, and that could be something you just have to look out for. Now with a 5-5 score game, I would not expect a spawn peek, and if you do, you most likely will not be very successful. So they're going to be going back upstairs inside of Bar and Cocktail, and this is a site that really favors the defenders when they hold piano. Once first attempts can take control and hold that, it will be very beneficial for them in the long run. Meanwhile, Wichita Wolves will look to try and open that wall and push in. Again, neither team opting for the ace or the thermite, just not part of their game plan, and I'm not sure if maybe they're just not comfortable with them, or it's just not really working out in their favor.
Yeah, I mean, third floor and Cocktail, one of those bomb sites is notorious. It can be very hard to get onto on the attack, but it can be just as hard to retake on the defense if you lose control of it. So now they're in this pressure cooker situation. They need to go for that execute. Casper is going to be holding towards Pixel, waiting for that push to come into Cigar Lounge. Finally destroys the Vulcan shield, so he's going to pull off that angle, give it over to Bait, who will be holding in Washroom, same as we saw in that last round. They're going to be down onto whether or not Wichita Wolves go for that execute, and Devil punished huge there by Bloom, finding the right angle. They haven't realized that the backstop wall is open. Tyrant goes for a swing, sees it now, but that is a huge misplay to be making, especially given that that is your only hard breach.
Your only hard breach off the board, and all you can do is watch as they start to fall. Stokes will find Tyrant, but he will be refragged by Relapse, who is now looking a little bit worse for wear after that altercation. Wholesale knows the walls are opened up, and it will prove to be a little bit difficult. Knows there's one in Washroom Spring at the top of White, and just has to wait for the smoke to swing out here. Excuse me, that'll be the mute with the SAS shotgun. Jaeger's gonna swing. Bloom will find his second on the Wholesale, punishing him. Faded will fall as well, and just like that, first attempt fall like dominoes. I'm sorry, first attempt will win that round, and Wichita, excuse me, will fall like dominoes. They'll secure themselves 6-4.
They fall like dominoes onto the floor and go for the drop shot and get the kill, but they win regardless. And first attempt, it's this roller coaster of emotion, rounds being traded back and forth, Matt, and at this point, it's match point in favor of first attempt. They need one more to close it out, and the series is a 1-1. Both teams walk away with points. It's not the worst situation. But we've seen how these rounds have gone. Since round 7, it has been a round trade back. Actually, round number 6, technically. It's been a round trade back and forth. We're now going into round number 12. Could we see this head to overtime? It's Kitchen. It has been a bit of a flop in terms of which way it goes. The first time, it definitely went in favor of Wichita Wolves. The last time, it was Stokes clutching it out and getting that defuse. It's 1-1. It's 50-50 on this bomb site in this half. It's really impossible to call it, especially given PK back on the Warden here. They figured out a strategy which works for them. This could be the play.
The Warden will definitely be countered this time, and that will come down to just overall execution by the attackers. But guys, did you know Wichita has never lost in the regular season of SCS? And I think that's an interesting fact to note, because last season, they went undefeated in the regular season and the playoffs because they won. So that should be something to keep in mind, especially when you're looking at a 6-5 score. So absolutely incredible job by first attempt, already taking a 6-5 score over here in terms of Wichita, who are just trying to claw back in this one. It's been going back and forth. It's really anybody's game, but a peek from Stokes here. Ill-advised, he'll get lit up and not get any kills here. Very, very, very unfortunate, and Devil will punish him, and that's a huge pick and blow of momentum for first attempt. Wichita Wolves capitalize on it.
Yeah, and I mean, this is first attempt in position to deny their Wichita Wolves their first win in regular season. Not defeat, but deny the first win, because it would be a draw at the end of the day, which I've had this argument the other day. It's not a win, it's a draw. Both teams won one, both teams lost one. There is no winners at the end of the day. But in saying that, Wichita Wolves with a great opening frag onto Stokes. That's the Valkyrie. That's a Nitro cell off the board. The one Nitro cell that they did have. And that information gathering tool. And he was the player as well that clutched it out the last time we were here on Kitchen. This could be rough. 2 minutes left to play. Wichita Wolves, they're starting up that vertical control. They're pushing Relapse down onto the second floor to get that verticality underway with a skeleton key. PK though, that's a bold situation to be holding onto VIP door. If he gets swung on here by Devil, who already found a kill in the round, they could lose another one. And he's going to retreat himself back to VIP room, play it a little bit safer, use that shield as a defense. It's really impossible to call which way this could go because there's still such heavy man presence on both sides in terms of Wichita Wolves being on the attack upstairs and then first attempt downstairs on the defense. It's going to come down to gunfights, 100%.
And I think that's where a lot of these teams excel. PK is going to find Tyrant, though, and striking back after Stokes fell early. They'll find one back. Tyrant will fall. PK trying to quick peek with the Warden SMG-12, but ultimately will rotate all the way upstairs, make the attackers roam clear them. Looks like Casper's going to get aggressive here, and it will be ill-advised. Wholesale Milk will take his head off, and already the man advantage still in favor of Wichita, which has been going that way ever since the first opening kill. Wholesale trying to peek vertically here as Relapse still looking to hunt down this Warden upstairs, and he will be punished. Relapse picks him off. It's all up to Bait and Bloom, but have the roamers stalled enough time to force the attackers into this fatal funnel. Bait's got the Maestro Alda in hand, but Wholesale Milk will find his second on the Bloom, and it's all up to Bait. He will find Wholesale looking to try and finish it off here, but Wichita will be able to close that one. 6-6, and we are going to overtime, Blue. And I told you that these games were going to be close, and my God, the first map, I didn't think that would be true, but now we're looking at a 6-6 score on Kafe. I'm starting to go back to my original assumption.
Yeah, well, it's guaranteed first overtime of the season, which means that both teams are guaranteed some points over this, regardless of how it ends out. The question is, though, is it going to be a draw at the end of the day? The first draw of the season? Is it Wichita Wolves going to be denied their first win of the regular? It is going to be first attempt starting off on third floor at the moment. They won it the last time. It was rather decisive in how they did it. The gunfights went their way. They picked up every single kill they needed to. Despite the way things sort of kicked off, it looked a bit tenuous throughout the initial part of that round. But, I mean, first attempt, if they take this one away, get that draw, that's going to be huge for their momentum in the regular season.
And definitely looking at Wichita in the past, they haven't lost a single regular season game. And they're at an ability where they might actually do that here in their first week of SCS. And I think that's something that First Attempt is definitely looking to do. If we kind of look at how the rounds have been going, it's been back and forth. And it almost looks like they just bing, bong, back and forth. We just drew a line between all of the skulls. It just goes back and forth each round. And I think that's something to keep in mind here. And as we go into a possible infinite overtime, it could absolutely be crucial.
Yeah, it's largely going to be on First Attempt to step up and step up big, because at the moment, the odds really aren't in their favor. It has been Wichita Wolves who have consistently been finding those big frags, consistently stepping up as a team. In fact, the most lackluster performance in the second map is Tyrant, who was huge in map number 1, which is surprising enough, but the rest of the team, you can see it, they're all fragging consistently, they're all contributing quite well. And at the moment, First Attempt, it has been on the back of a couple of players here, how these rounds have gone. At the moment, they are starting that verticality. They're getting up onto the roof. They're starting to open up their hatches. Relapse will be doing that flank watch job. Put down the air jabs, deny the rotate potential from below. And Bloom, okay, he's decided better, but he was sitting in piano, maybe contesting onto one of those windows for a spawn peek. Has pulled into back stock. Stokes will give him some information to work with. One of those black eye cams. Actually, no, it was a black eye cam, so never mind. But it's going to be dealt with early. At the moment, they're trying to push in a cigar, get that angle, get that control over this southwestern side of the map. Bloom is going to be the deciding factor, though. Can he contest this angle that is open through backstop? Can he deny that push as to how this round plays out?
Well, they're definitely going to have to do it rather quickly. Relapse will be downed over the crossfire from PK as the Maestro. Does he know that he completely downed him? Devil's going to attempt to go for the revive here, and it looks like he will stick it with Wholesale on the cover. On stage inside of Piano, they have control of Piano, but the angles might be a little bit too much for them to handle, especially with an Alda here. Not the best situation to be in. Wholesale looking to try and hold these long angles. Relapse doing the same. Here come the Ash charges, though. Opening up Freezer Wall, definitely going to prove to be helpful. PK holding a sliver angle here, looking towards Cigar. He'll pre-fire, not net himself anything, but he will find a drone in the process, I believe. Looking to try and hold the rest of sight here. We tick under a minute left to play, and PK still holding strong, having to reload his Alda back to the 81 bullets to spray down range. We see Tyrant now on the bottom, now top of red, rotating to hold the angle through the closet. Relapse is going to walk right into sight, but prone in the middle of the floor will be Bloom. Bodies fall, and it's ultimately a 2v4, now a 2v3. Faded finds 2, brings it back to a 2v2, and it's Bait and Stokes versus Faded and Devil. As we find ourselves in a post-plant situation, Faded's gonna find Bait. He'll third one on the round. Stokes, the last defender alive to try and make something happen. No nitro cell left, so it's going to be up to the rest of his gun skill. He's going to jump outside, though, and that could spell doom. Faded knows his location. He's completely detected. Uh-oh. This is not looking good. But he actually escapes. He'll be able to escape through that free fire. Knows there's one close, though, but Faded will find him. Stokes will fall. Wichita Wolves finally win an attacking round here, and this could be the momentum swing that they needed. They'll go on the defense here, which they've been very successful on.
Yeah, I don't know about that one by Stokes. He gave away his position. I don't want to say he threw that round away, but I understand why he went for the attempt. He was anticipating that repel play, which is what got them the other time that this attack played out. And all of a sudden, it's looking a bit rough here for first attempt. Despite the monumental effort they've put into this point, they are a round down in overtime. They're now going to be on the attack, which, I mean, it wasn't the worst attacking half. They did get themselves some rather concise rounds, but it is going to be Kitchen, which they are at the moment not the cleanest on. They are 1 for 1, so they are going to need to dig deep here and get themselves a big win. At the moment, it's been a bit rough. This is a situation where your backing is against the wall. If your first attempt, you cannot make a mistake. Otherwise, the series is going to go the way of Wichita Wolf.
And it certainly looks to be leaning that way. They've already got one map under their belt, and they played very well in Clubhouse. Wichita has been able to make the adaptations necessary in order to give them the lead right now. Looks like it's going to be an interesting alteration of the standard Kitchen hold here with the castle. They're going to put that barricade up and not really opt for the rotate here, but rather footholds. Tyrant's going to be holding what looks to be a Goyo shield, where we saw the the Warden play last time, and I don't know if that's going to be necessarily helpful, but you already see the deployable shield starting to stack up from Wichita. They're starting to lean on that a little bit, maybe not opting for that small bakery prep side push.
Yeah, this is something that is seen from time to time. It's an extended first floor hold with the castle. You opt for the rotate into coach it. You lock down between Whiskey and Small Bakery, and after that little rotate there, it just gives you that little bit of extra security on the northern side. You don't have to worry as much about Small Bakery. It just gives you a little bit more security overall. Now though, it's going to be down to how first attempt it looked to approach this wholesale milk. And White Stairs once again. This is where we saw him capitalize on their final defense round. He got a big opening kill. Definitely swung the momentum in their favor from there. They were just able to sweep out the rest of this first attempt roster. It's going to be down to the drone play. First attempt need to be using their drones. They need to be finding that info. They need to be communicating here if they want to get a chance at winning out this map. And it's exactly what they're doing. They're sitting on the roof. They're droning. They've used on that drone to give them that information to be able to contest here. But that can also work against you, because all that time spent droning, now you're looking to move. By the time you get in, that information could be invalid.
And I think that's why Wichita went for the bottom floor. Knowing that they'll have to waste time clearing the top and go all the way down to the bottom will prove to be beneficial. Bait looking to try and use vertical angles against them. Not necessarily certain if they know where sight is. It looks like they're still trying to clear the map, and they're taking their sweet time trying to get this vertical control, and it looks like they finally about to do it. Completely clearing the floor, now getting ready for that vertical pressure, still not opening up all that much quite yet. Actually, it looks like Bait is the only one going for it right now, and This is going to be very interesting, the way that Wichita plans to play this. Every time we see them turtle site, it works out in their favor, but not necessarily for first attempt, who are looking to try and really move them out of this position. Now, a lot of people in this situation would try and flank, but when you have 5 people upstairs, it's not necessarily the most, I want to say, advised play. Bloom's gonna spray down Mudroom door, and now we've hit under a minute left to play, and Relapse gonna be holding inside of Mudroom. It was really hard to contest these angles as the attackers last time, and again, they'll have to do it. Not really learning from their mistakes. Casper's gonna have to push down Brown stairs, and Bates still trying to get that vertical pressure. Relapse is gonna pick off Bloom, and he's looking for a little bit more here. Jumping on top of Coat Check desk. It now hits. 30 seconds left to play. A 5v4 favoring Wichita.
They've got to force in. They've got to go for an attempt here. First attempt, they really just don't have the room to work with. Wholesale Milk gets shut down, which could be the avenue that first attempt need. Stokes follows up with a quick kill onto Tyrant. They're just stringing these advantages together. Unfortunately, they lose Casper off the back of it. Relapse still playing in Kochek, still has the position to play from. Bait will drop all the way down into Freezer. Is being choked out a little bit here, but will give themselves a chance to get in. Stokes in a huge amount of trouble, is just being tagged out. PK will get baited though. They've got control of the bomb site. Unfortunately, they don't have the clock though. They can't get the diffuser down. Wichita Wolves win the series. Yes, it is an overtime, but still a 2-0 victory going the way of the former champions. In fact, defending champions.
They are the defending champions twice that time, and what a game, what a map, and I don't think you could have ended it really any better. Wichita played their hearts out, and so did first attempt, and realistically, it just came down to the last second execution from first attempt that just really wasn't there. And a lot of times when you look at a team that is successful, they can execute in those final few seconds. That 20-second meta doesn't really mean anything to them. And if they can, they have the intel and the crossfires established where they can actually make that stuff work. Soko, what do you have to say about that match?
Oh man, that was a barn burner of a match for sure. That's, I guess, my favorite description to use for close matches like this. But first attempt, they get their point. And I was gonna make a little bit of like a joke about it, where like first attempt has gotten a point in their first attempt at Major T3, I guess. But that's terrible. That's
hey,
terrible.
Look, at least they're second on the scoreboard right now, which isn't the worst situation
true.
to be in. They've got a point. We do have an interview coming up with the winners there, Wichita Wolves. I mean, Salco, Matt, they did it quite well.
They did. I mean, I will give them that much. I mean, they were sort of waking up on Clubhouse. They were getting used to playing with a sub, but I mean, Wichita Wolves just coming back strong after the offseason. They're starting to find themselves again after the roster change. So we do have an interview, and it's going to be the captain of Wichita Wolves. It's going to be Faded, so I'm going to throw it over to the casters one more time here for this interview, and I'll be back with you in a moment.
All right, Faded, welcome. You guys were pushed there a little bit on the second map of the series. You guys took it quite cleanly in map number 1. How are the guys feeling after that series?
Oh, we're feeling great. We really we tried to keep our mental in check there while we were trying to make the comeback to OT, and then we really closed it out in OT, so I'm proud of the team.
Yeah, I mean, you guys gave us a hell of a performance to cast over. There were some very, very stunning moments. Wholesale Milk coming into that series just fragging out of his mind. Definitely led the charge on map number 1 Clubhouse. I mean, you guys dropped 2 rounds. That must be a hell of a way to start off the season.
Yeah, definitely. He made a play on that one church defense, and it really gave us the momentum to get us on match point and then close it out.
Matt, you got any questions for Faded after that stellar performance?
Yeah, just a couple. On your first map, you guys take a 7-2 victory. At first, what was your main mentality going into this game? You knew that first attempt is a relatively new team to the T3 competition. Were you at all, I want to say, intimidated, or just kind of not as prepared, or were you kind of ready to take these guys on?
Usually whenever we prep for a team, we try to, like, mentally at least, like, think of them as the best team we've ever played. Like, don't underestimate them, don't, like, kind of overestimate them. Like, think that they're going to make the smart play to actually win the round. So we're just ready for everything, like, no matter what team we play. We're always ready for them to, like, actually, like, play good. And the first attempt did play really well, so shout out to them.
Awesome. Well, I have only one other question. You guys got hit with that Warden pick not once, but twice by first attempt. Were you at all caught off guard by it? Because in the casting booth when I was seeing it, I was kind of caught off guard a little bit by it, but were you able to, like, work around it when you saw it in the prep phase or whenever you encountered it?
Yeah, it wasn't. It was a good adaptation because the way we were clearing VIP, we were flashing them out, and then they were getting caught in our crossfires. But with the shield meta, a lot more people have been bringing Warden on pretty much every map, at least the teams we've played against. So we're kind of aware of how to counter it, so it didn't catch us off too much.
All right, well, thank you and congratulations on your 2 map wins here. You guys are starting out strong here as the defending SCS Season 3 champions. Wish you luck in your future games, and we hope to see you back in this booth sooner rather than later. Well, we got analysts waiting for us to break down the rest of that match. That'll be it from me and Panda, and we will hand it off to Chief and the other person. I forget.
Thank you guys for having me.
It's Pond and Smith right now. Actually,
Pond and
it's gonna
Smith.
be Matt. Yeah, no, Chief is gonna be
Right.
casting the next game, so he
I
will
know.
be here in a moment.
I was saying, like, we as the casters are going to
Oh.
leave and hand it off to the analyst, and then we're gonna have Chief and shoot, who's the other? Al? Vial. Sorry, excuse me, Vial.
You're fine, man. You just casted 2 maps where no one's
I'm
faulting you
tired.
there. Yeah, it's
I'm thirsty. I'm
understandable, so.
tired. I'm hungry, and I just want to go to bed. I'm kidding.
Go sleep, man. Go sleep for sure. You guys just casted the best maps of the season so far, obviously, because they were the only 2 maps of the season. So let's kick it over to
Oh,
the
I gotta
analysts
do
and
it to
talk
that.
about that, guys. Let's go. Smith, Pond, welcome to the booth, my friends. I'll leave it over to you guys. Talk about some round replays coming up here.
Sorry, I'm just laughing at just the brain deadness of Matt just from casting those 2 maps. It was really funny.
Hey.
But as you can see right now, we're doing round 3 right now. We have chosen all of the first attempts wins because I wanted to highlight how important or the drastic improvement of first attempt from the first match to the second match. I mean, clearly you could see that just from the first half of this map. It was 3-3, and in map 1, Clubhouse, it was a 5-1 with Wichita Wolves leading. It was, I just saw a drastic improvement because they changed their roles. Stokes, you can see him as I think in a secondary fragger role in map 1. In this one, he stepped back and put himself in a support role, which is exactly what they needed. They needed an IGL because in map 1, they looked extremely lost.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, I really like the adaptations that first attempt had made for this round, primarily switching Casper over to that secondary entry or primary entry, and Stokes moving over to the support role. Even though they weren't able to come out with the dub in the end, I mean, they played lights out on their attacks. They looked a lot more coordinated this time around. You can see them now. They have quite a bit of intel still left on the board here in round 3, but they're being very methodical with the way they're going about it. They're clearing out. It's less of a wonderful shot there from Casper, but it's less of an individual effort and more of a connected push. That was a adaptation that I really had liked. That they had made coming through. I think at one point here we're going to see Stokes' crazy clutch. But I want to talk a little bit about just why Wichita Wolves is Wichita Wolves, why they're the Season 1 champs, and why you can never really count them out. I had predicted that they were going to take this map. And the mental fortitude of that solid core of Devil, Faded, and Tyrant is just, it's absolutely apparent. I mean, we got to see Release get the ball out a little bit more on this map. Wholesale was a little bit more quiet than we had seen him on Clubhouse, but they were down and it was going back and forth, and this map was a lot different from Clubhouse. It was a lot more of a grind. It was going back and forth. We went into 2 rounds of overtime, but Wichita Wolves coming up in the end there. I'm really liking that core that they have, that Faded, Devil, and Tyrant. All of them coming up. Tyrant might not have had the best game, but even if not, I mean, Devil playing that support role, coming up with 4 plants and really coming up at the end there and getting the dub for his team. I mean, I'm really liking the Wichita Wolves we're seeing.
Exactly. And wholesale. He was a little bit quiet towards in map 2, but I will say in round 7, he put up a really, really good use of utility. Just using his ass charge to get rid of the player playing in deep freezer was actually really big brain. Because of that, it allowed Wichita Wolves to be able to just push in into bar and capitalize and just close up all the players in the first attempt, and ultimately just gained them the victory in round 7.
Yeah, and I love that you highlighted that, because that was something I wanted to also kind of point out, is that Wholesale, even though he might not have had as big of an impact kill wise, which is what a lot of people look for, you can also see him on his defenses. He might not have been as big kill wise. Delaying the time for the attackers was big. He wasn't dying as early on. I mean, he had a few early deaths, but even then, when he was roaming, he was really forcing the defender, or forcing the attackers to push him out, and was doing just that. Even though he wasn't getting those kills, he was playing his utility, he was playing his role well. On entry, I mean, we saw it here. I mean, he was able to get that opening pick, clearing out the Valkyrie from below. A dangerous position that he's clearing out very early on. He's doing what he needs to. The stats might not have been there to back that up. I mean, after the rehost, he really did come alive. And I mean, we saw in that last round, he came up big. Even if he's not getting those kills, he's using his utility to clear out the player playing in freezer. He's using the utility that he needs to burn the ADSs, playing to, as me and Chief kind of talk about it, the utility dump simulator. And he's able to still have that impact. I'm really liking him as a pickup. And Release also quietly going off this map. Relapse. My apologies. Relapse playing that that flex role. He was after the half, he dropped 8 kills playing that anchor role on defense as the castle. Still coming up big. I mean, I'm really liking these 2 pickups that we had for Wichita Wolves.
Yes, definitely. They couldn't have had any better candidates or just players play in their game. Play with them today. That's where we go. My bad. I also want to highlight the just significant improvement from Stokes from map 1 to map 2, especially in round 9, where he had just ultimately 4K clutch that entire round. That he was just running on pure heroics, as you said earlier, Pon.
Oh yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, absolutely insane. I mean, dropping, I think it was 14 kills and something like 6 deaths. By the end of this game, a significant improvement from his 5 and 8 from the first map, going positive. And who says casters can't play? And also, who says coaches can't play? I feel like he falls in those 2 memes right there. But a significant improvement, playing intel heavy on defense, switching over to that Valkyrie. Coming up big with the MPX. We saw a nice little cheeky C4 when he was playing over by Coates. Over to the I believe that was big window outside by VIP. Just he's playing intel, playing heavy. I guarantee you he was one of the big shot callers on his team, and as coach you really want to be. I really liked the improvement, but I think that's all the time we're gonna have for today. Looking forward to this second match coming up, and we will be going to Chief and Vial.